The 17 Indisputable Laws of Teamwork by John Maxwell. Read by John Maxwell.
Introduction. Every day in some way you are part of a team. The question is not, will you participate in something that involves others? The question is, will your involvement with others be successful? Everyone knows that teamwork is a good thing. In fact, it's essential. But how does it really work? What makes a winning team? Why do some teams go straight to the top, seeing their vision become reality, while others seem to go nowhere? These questions don't have simple answers. If they did, sports would have more back-to-back world champions, and the list of Fortune 500 companies wouldn't change year after year. One of the challenges of learning about teamwork is that even people who've taken a team to the highest level in their field sometimes have a hard time identifying what separates a great team from a collection of individuals who can't seem to get it together. Some will say the key to winning is a strong work ethic. But haven't you known plenty of hard-working individuals who never work together to reach their potential? Others believe that great teams are the result of chemistry. They often say, I can't explain how you create it, but I definitely know it when I see it. Now, how can you get your hands around that and learn from it to build your team? As a communicator who spends countless hours speaking to live audiences every year, I'm always looking for straightforward ways to teach people complex truths. That's what a communicator does. He takes something complicated and makes it simple. I want to take the mystery out of it. That's why I've worked hard to identify the laws of teamwork. The wonderful thing about a law is that you can depend on it. No matter who you are, what your background is, or what circumstances you face, you can take a law to the bank. As I teach you the laws, you will find that I often approach the subject of teamwork from a leader's point of view. That makes sense, since leaders are the ones who bring teams together and lead them to victory. But you don't have to be a leader to benefit from these principles. Just about everything you do depends on teamwork. It doesn't matter whether you are a leader or a follower, coach or player, teacher or student, parent or child, CEO or non-profit volunteer worker. No matter who you are, if you learn and apply the laws, your teamwork capacity will increase. The greater the number of laws that you and your teammates learn, the more likely you are to be transformed from a group of individuals into a winning team. I want to encourage you to devote yourself to the process of learning to be a great team member and team builder. As you learn about the laws of teamwork and begin to apply them, I think you will find that they have a positive impact on every aspect of your life. As you proceed, also remember this. None of the laws stands alone, but they all stand together really well. The greater number of laws you learn, the better you will become as a team member. Enjoy the process. Give it your best. And never forget that no matter what you want to do in life, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. So, let's get started. Law number 1, the law of significance. 1 is too small a number to achieve greatness. First, let me ask you, who are your personal heroes? Okay, maybe you don't have heroes exactly, then let me ask you this. Which people do you admire most? Who do you wish you were more like? Which people fire you up and get your juices flowing? Do you admire business innovators such as Bill Gates? Great athletes like Michael Jordan? Spiritual leaders, maybe Billy Graham or Mother Teresa? Or maybe you admire revolutionary thinkers such as Thomas Edison or Albert Einstein? Your list might include people in a field I didn't mention. But it's safe to say that we all admire achievers. And we Americans especially love pioneers and bold individualists, people who fight alone despite the odds or opposition. The settler who carves a place for himself in the wilds of the frontier. The Old West sheriff who resolutely faces an enemy in a gunfight, the pilot who bravely flies solo across the Atlantic Ocean, and the scientist who changes the world through the power of his mind. As much as we admire solo achievement, the truth is that no lone individual has done anything of value. The belief that one person can do something great is a myth. There are no real Rambos who can take on a hostile army by themselves. Even the Lone Ranger wasn't really a loner. Everywhere he went, he rode with Tonto. Nothing of significance was ever achieved by an individual acting alone. Look below the surface, and you will find that all seemingly solo acts are really team efforts. Frontiersman Daniel Boone had companions from the Transylvania Company as he blazed the wilderness road. Sheriff Wyatt Earp had his two brothers and Doc Holliday looking out for him. Aviator Charles Lindbergh had the backing of 9 businessmen from St. Louis and the services of the Ryan Aeronautical Company, which built his plane. Even Albert Einstein, the scientist who revolutionized the world with his theory of relativity, didn't work in a vacuum. Of the debt he owed to others for his work, Einstein once remarked, "Many times a day I realize how much my outer and inner life is built upon the labors of my fellow men, both living and dead, and how earnestly I must exert myself in order to give in return as much as I have received." It's true that the history of our country is marked by those accomplishments of many strong leaders and innovative individuals who took considerable risk, but those people always were a part of a team. A Chinese proverb states that behind an able man there are always other able men. The truth is that teamwork is at the heart of great achievement. The question isn't whether teams have value. The question is whether we acknowledge that fact and become better team players. If you want to reach your potential or strive for the seemingly impossible, you need to become a team player. It may be a cliche, but it is nonetheless true. Individuals play the game, but teams win championships. Knowing all that we do about the potential of teams, why do people still want to do things by themselves? I believe there are a number of reasons. Number one, ego. Few people are fond of admitting that they can't do everything, yet that is a reality of life. Philanthropist Andrew Carnegie declared, "It marks a big step in your development when you come to realize that other people can help you do a better job than you could do alone. To do something really big, let go of your ego and get ready to be part of a team." Number two, insecurity. In my work with leaders, I have found that some individuals fail to promote teamwork because they feel threatened by other people. I believe that insecurity, rather than poor judgment or lack of intelligence, most often causes leaders to surround themselves with weak people. On the other hand, insecure leaders usually fail to build teams because of one of two reasons. Either they want to maintain control over everything for which they are responsible, or they fear being replaced by someone more capable. In either case, leaders who fail to promote teamwork undermine their own potential and erode the best efforts of the people with whom they work. Number three, being naive. Consultant John Gagan keeps a sign on his desk that says, "If I had it to do all over again, I'd get help." That remark accurately represents the feelings of the third type of people who fail to become team builders. They naively underestimate the difficulty of achieving big things. As a result, they try to go it alone. Number four, temperament. Some people aren't very outgoing and simply don't think in terms of team building and team participation. As they face challenges, it never occurs to them to enlist others to achieve something. As a people person, I find that hard to relate to. Whenever I face any kind of challenge, the very first thing I do is think about the people I want on the team to help with it. I've been that way since I was a kid. I've always thought, Why take the journey alone when you can invite others along with you? I understand that not everyone operates that way. But whether or not you are naturally inclined to be part of a team is really irrelevant. If you do everything alone and never partner with other people, you create huge barriers to your own potential. Dr. Alan Fromm quipped, "People have been known to achieve more as a result of working with others than against them." What an understatement. It takes a team to do anything of lasting value. Besides, even the most introverted person in the world can learn to enjoy the benefits of being on a team. A few years ago, my friend Chuck Swindoll wrote a piece in The Finishing Touch that sums up the importance of teamwork. He said, "Nobody is a whole team. We need each other. You need someone and someone needs you. Isolated islands, we're not. To make this thing called life work, we gotta lean and support, and relate and respond, and give and take, and confess and forgive, and reach out and embrace, and rely. Since none of us is a whole, independent, self-sufficient, super-capable, all-powerful hotshot, let's quit acting like we are. Life's lonely enough without our playing that silly role. The game is over. Let's link up." For the person trying to do everything alone, the game really is over. If you want to do something big, you must link up with others. One is too small a number to achieve greatness. That's the law of significance. The teamwork thought for the law of significance is this: you may be good, but you're not that good. The law of the big picture. The goal is more important than the role. Years ago, I was invited to participate in an important conference that was being planned by a highly respected national organization. I was one of about a dozen speakers who had been selected to speak to an audience of more than 60,000 people drawn from all parts of the country. Several weeks before the conference was to occur, all the speakers were scheduled to meet together along with the founder of the organization. I was really excited about it because the group included some extraordinary leaders. It promised to be an electric time, but the reality of the meeting turned out to be different from what I expected. As we discussed the upcoming day, a few of the speakers seemed to be jockeying for position. Because they were good communicators, they understood that the speaking order, the time of day, and the amount of time allotted would make a big difference in how their messages would be received. The role each speaker was to play seemed to be of more interest than the goal of the conference. But I also noticed something else. When one speaker briefly informed us about his topic, I sensed immediately that his speech would be the real linchpin of the whole conference. All of the other messages would be subordinate to it. Yet the man was not fighting for the best place. In that moment, when everyone was focusing on himself, I realized that we had lost sight of the big picture of why we were there. So I said to the group about this speaker, I believe his message will be the difference maker in the lives of the people attending this conference. And I think the audience will receive it better if it's delivered when I am slated to speak. Please, I said to the person who wasn't trying to promote himself, take my spot. It was almost as if somebody had struck each person in the room. Suddenly, everybody regained perspective. After that, instead of looking out for themselves and protecting turf, all of the speakers were willing to give everything for the common good. We all remembered that the goal was more important than our individual roles. That is the essence of the law of the big picture. In a culture that sings the praises of individual gold medals, and where a person fights for rights instead of focusing on taking responsibility, people tend to lose sight of the big picture. A team isn't supposed to be a bunch of people being used as a tool by one individual for selfish gain. Members of a team must have mutually beneficial shared goals. They must be motivated to work together, not manipulated by someone for individual glory. Anyone who is accustomed to pulling together people and using them to benefit only himself isn't a team builder, he's a dictator. Winning teams have players who put the good of the team ahead of themselves. They want to play to their area of strength, but they're willing to do what it takes to take care of the team. They are willing to sacrifice their role for the greater goal. That's the law of the big picture. Leaders at the highest level understand the law of the big picture. They continually keep the vision of the big picture before themselves and their people. It takes courage and resolve to recognize that the goal is more important than the role. It's no small thing for people to do what's best for the team. Often it means sacrificing professional satisfaction, individual statistics, or personal glory. But as NBA star turned successful businessman Irvin Magic Johnson says, everybody on a championship team doesn't get publicity, but everyone can say he's a champion. So how do people start to become a more unified team? How do individuals make the shift from independent people to team players who exemplify the law of the big picture? It's not something that happens overnight. It takes time. Here is my best take on how to get the process started. Number one, look up at the big picture. Everything starts with vision. You need to have a goal. Without one, you cannot have a real team. Hall of Fame catcher Yogi Berra joked, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else. An individual without a goal may end up anywhere. A group of individuals without a goal can go nowhere. On the other hand, if everyone in a group embraces the vision for achieving the big picture, then the people have the potential to become an effective team. Number two, size up the situation. One value of seeing the big picture is that it helps you recognize how far you really are from achieving it. For someone determined to do everything alone, seeing the gulf between what is and what could be is often intimidating. But for people who live to build teams, seeing the size of the task ahead doesn't worry them. They don't shrink from the challenge. They savor the opportunity. They can't wait to put together a team and a plan to accomplish that vision. Number three, line up needed resources. Holly R. Everhart believes it's all right to aim high if you have plenty of ammunition. That's what resources are. Ammunition to help you reach a goal. It doesn't matter what kind of team you're on. You cannot make progress without the support of the appropriate equipment, facilities, funds, and so forth. Whether your goal is climbing a mountain, capturing a market, or creating a ministry, the better resourced the team is, the fewer distractions the players will have as they try to achieve their goal. Number four, call up the right players. When it comes to building a successful team, the players are everything. You can have a distinct vision, a precise plan, plenty of resources, and incredible leadership. But if you don't have the right people, you're not going to get anywhere. You can lose with good players, but you cannot win with bad ones. Number five, step up to a higher level. Only when players come together and give up their own agenda can a team move up to a higher level. That's the kind of sacrifice required for teamwork. As philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, many are stubborn in pursuit of the path they have chosen, few in pursuit of the goal. And that's a shame, because people who think only of themselves are missing the big picture. As a result, their potential goes untapped, and the people who are depending on them are bound to be let down. Number six, give up personal agendas. Teams that win have players who continually ask themselves, what's best for the rest? A remarkable sports story from several years ago was the success of the U.S. women's soccer team. They won the Olympic gold medal and the World Cup in a few brief years. A key player on that team was Mia Hamm. In her book, Go for the Goal, she gives her perspective on her sport and the attitude a player must bring into the game to achieve the goal of becoming a champion. Soccer is not an individual sport. I don't score all the goals, And the ones I do score are usually the product of a team effort. I don't keep the ball out of the back of the net on the other end of the field. I don't plan our game tactics. I don't wash our training gear. Okay, sometimes I do, and I don't make our airline reservations. I am a member of a team, and I rely on the team. I defer to it and sacrifice for it, because the team, not the individual, is the ultimate champion. Mia Hamm understands the law of the big picture. And by doing whatever it took to help her team, including washing the gear, she demonstrated that the goal was more important than the role. Teamwork thought for the law of the big picture. When you see the big picture correctly, you serve the team more quickly. Law number 3, the law of the niche. All players have a place where they add the most value. On January 26, 2001, Colin Powell assumed the post of Secretary of State, the highest cabinet post in the United States government. It was a significant appointment because, to put it simply, Colin Powell was the best individual in all of the United States to take on the role of Secretary of State. George W. Bush, the president who appointed him, stated, "In this cause, I know of no better person to be the face and voice of American diplomacy than Colin Powell." Citing his directness of speech, his towering integrity, his deep respect for our democracy, and his soldier's sense of duty, Bush recognizes that all players have a place where they add the most value. Powell's is running the State Department. A soldier's sense of duty has been a vital part of the character of Colin Powell since he was in his early 20s. He entered college uncertain of what he wanted to do with his life. But it didn't take him long to find his identity in his ROTC unit called the Pershing Rifles at the City College of New York. It was there that he discovered real teamwork for the first time in his life. And as he got closer to graduation from college, there was no doubt in his mind he gladly chose military life. In the Army, Powell seemed to achieve success everywhere he went, and he quickly rose in rank. His love was commanding troops, and when he received those assignments, he did well. Yet he was constantly tapped for special jobs and responsibilities. When that happened again and again, keeping him from leading soldiers in the field, he became frustrated. But a mentor, General John Wickham, wisely told him, "You're not going to have a conventional Army career. Some officers are just not destined for it." Wickham was right. Powell's career did turn out to be unusual, and it ultimately prepared him for a cabinet post, sharpening his gifts and giving him broad experience. When President-elect Bush approached him about becoming a cabinet member, there was only one logical place for him to serve, the place where he could add the most value. Good things happen to a team when a player takes the place where he adds the most value. Great things happen when all the players on the team take the role that maximizes their strengths, their talent, skill, and experience. But what happens when we don't follow the law of the niche? Just about everyone has experienced being on some kind of a team where people had to take on roles that didn't suit them. An accountant forced to work with people all day. A basketball forward forced to play center. A guitarist filling in on the keyboard. A teacher stuck doing paperwork. A spouse who hates the kitchen taking on the role of cook. What happens to a team when one or more of its members constantly play out of position? First, morale erodes because the team isn't playing up to its capability. Then people become resentful. The people working in an area of weakness resent that their best is untapped. And other people on the team who know that they could better fill a mismatched position on the team resent that their skills are being overlooked. Before long, people become unwilling to work as a team. Then everyone's confidence begins to erode, and the situation just keeps getting worse. The team stops progressing, and the competition takes advantage of the team's obvious weaknesses. As a result, the team never realizes its potential. When people aren't where they do things well, things don't turn out well. NFL champion coach Vince Lombardi observed, "The achievements of an organization are the results of the combined effort of each individual." That is true. But creating a winning team doesn't come just from having the right individuals. You may have a group of talented individuals, but if each person is not doing what adds the most value to the team, you won't achieve your potential as a team. That's the art of leading a team. You've got to put people in their places, and I mean that in the most positive way. To be able to put people in the places that utilize their talents and maximize the team's potential, you need three things. Number one, you must know the team. You cannot build a winning team or organization if you don't know its vision, purpose, culture, or history. If you don't know where the team is trying to go and why it's trying to get there, you cannot take the team to the height of its potential. You've got to start where the team actually is. Only then can you take it somewhere. Number two, you must know the situation. Even though the vision or purpose of an organization may be fairly constant, its situation changes constantly. Good team builders know where the team is and what the situation requires. Number three, you must know the player. Now, it sounds obvious, but you must know the player you are trying to position in the right niche. I mention it because leaders tend to want to make everyone else conform to their image, to approach their work using the same skills and problem-solving methods. But team building is not working on an assembly line. As you work to build a team, evaluate each person's experience, skills, temperament, attitude, passion, people skills, discipline, emotional strength, and potential. Only then will you be ready to help a team member find his proper place. A few years ago, my wife Margaret and I had the privilege of attending the Hollywood premiere of The Prince of Egypt. It was a wonderful experience and a great reminder of the law of the niche. Now, anybody who's gone to a movie, show, or sporting event with me knows my pattern. As soon as I am pretty certain about the outcome of a ball game, I hit the exit to beat the crowds. When the Broadway audience is giving the ovation, I'm gone. And the second the credits begin to roll in the movie, I'm out of my seat. As The Prince of Egypt came to a close, I started to get up. But not a person in the theater moved. And then something really surprising happened. As the credits rolled, people began to applaud and cheer for the individuals whose names appeared on the screen. The costume designer, the Foley artist, the key assistant, the assistant director. It was a moment I'll never forget, and a distinct reminder of the law of the niche. When each person does the job that's best for him, everyone wins. Are you working in your niche, or are you functioning at less than 100%? All players have a place where they add the most value. I want to encourage you to make sure you've found yours. Teamwork thought for the law of the niche. You are most valuable where you add the most value. Law number 4, the law of Mount Everest. As the challenge escalates, the need for teamwork elevates. In 1935, 21-year-old Tenzing Norgay made his first trip to Mount Everest. He worked as a porter for a British team of mountaineers. A Sherpa born in the high altitudes of Nepal, Tenzing had been drawn to the mountain from the time that Westerners began visiting the area with the idea of climbing to the mountain's peak. The first group had come in 1920. And 15 years later, climbers were still trying to figure out how to conquer the mountain. The farthest this expedition would go was up to the North Col, which was at an altitude of 22,000 feet. A col is a flat area along a mountain's ridge between peaks. And it was just below that col that the climbing party made a gruesome discovery. They came across a wind-shredded tent. And in that tent was a skeleton with a little frozen skin stretched over the bones. It was sitting in an odd position, with one boot off, and the laces of the other boot between its bony fingers. The body Tenzing and others found in 1935 was that of Maurice Wilson, an Englishman who had sneaked into Tibet and tried to climb the mountain secretly without the permission of the Tibetan government. Because he was trying to make the ascent quietly, he hired only 3 porters to climb the mountain with him. As they approached the North Col, those men had refused to go any farther with him, and Wilson decided to try to make the climb on his own. That decision killed him. Only someone who has climbed a formidable mountain knows what it takes to make it to the top. For 32 years, between 1920 and 1952, 7 major expeditions tried and failed to make it to the top of Everest. Tenzing Norgay was on 6 of those expeditions. In 1953, Tenzing embarked on his 7th expedition to Everest with a British group led by Colonel John Hunt. By then, he was respected not only as a porter who could carry heavy loads at high altitudes, but also as a mountaineer and a full-fledged expedition member, an honor unusual at that time for a Sherpa. Tenzing was also engaged to be the British group's Sherpa leader who would hire, organize, and lead the porters for the journey. That was no small task. To hope to get just 2 people from base camp up to the summit, the team brought 10 high-altitude climbers, including a New Zealander named Edmund Hillary. Altogether, the men would require 2.5 tons of equipment and food, which had to be delivered to Kathmandu and carried on the backs of men and women 180 miles up and down Himalayan ridges and over rivers crossed by narrow rope and plank bridges to the base camp. Tenzing would have to hire between 200 and 300 people just to get the supplies in the vicinity of the mountain. Supplies that would be needed by the party above the base camp would have to be carried up the mountain by another 40 porters, each a Sherpa with extensive mountain experience. The best third of that team would continue working higher up the mountain, carrying up the 750 pounds of necessary equipment in 30-pound loads. Only Tenzing and 3 other porters would have the strength and the skill to go to the high camps near the summit. For each level that the climbers reached, a higher degree of teamwork was required. One set of men would exhaust themselves just to get equipment up the mountain for the next group. 2-man teams would work their way up the mountain, finding a path, cutting steps, securing ropes. And then they would be finished, having spent themselves to make the next leg of the climb possible for another team. Of the teamwork involved, Tenzing remarked, "You do not climb a mountain like Everest by trying to race ahead on your own, or by competing with your comrades. You do it slowly and carefully by unselfish teamwork." The team of climbers ultimately made it possible for 2 pairs to make an attempt at reaching the summit. The first consisted of Tom Bordelon and Charles Evans. When they tried and failed, the other team got its chance. That team consisted of Tenzing and Edmund Hillary. Tenzing wrote of the first team, "They were worn out, sick with exhaustion, and of course terribly disappointed that they had not reached the summit themselves. But still, they did everything they could to advise and help us, and I thought, yes, that is how it is on a mountain. That is how a mountain makes men great. For where would Hillary and I have been without the others? It was only because of the work and sacrifice of all of them that we were now to have our chance at the top." They made the most of their chance. On May 29th, 1953, Tenzing Norgay and Edmund Hillary accomplished what no other human being ever had. They stood on the summit of Mount Everest, the world's highest peak. Could Tenzing and Hillary have made it alone? The answer is no. Could they have made it without a great team? Again, the answer is no. Why? Because as the challenge escalates, the need for teamwork elevates. That's the law of Mount Everest. Now, you may not be a mountain climber, but I bet you have a dream. And if you have a dream, you need a team to accomplishment. So how do you approach the task of putting together a team to accomplish your dream? I think the best way to start is to ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, what is my dream? It all starts with this question because your answer reveals what could be. And if you want to do something great, you must have a dream. But a dream alone is not enough. You can fulfill a dream only if you are a part of a team. Question number 2. Who's on my team? The second question tells you what is. It measures your current situation. Your potential is only as good as your current team. That's why you must examine who is joining you on your journey. A great dream with a bad team is nothing more than a nightmare. Number 3, what should my dream team look like? The truth is that your team must be the size of your dream. If it's not, then you won't achieve it. You simply cannot achieve an ultimate number 10 dream with a number 4 team. It just doesn't happen. It's better to have a great team with a weak dream than a great dream with a weak team. So when the team you have doesn't match up to the team of your dreams, then you have only 2 choices. Give up your dream or grow up your team. Here is my recommendation concerning how to do the latter. Number 1, develop team members. The first step to take with a team that's not realizing its potential is to help individual team members to grow. If you're leading the team, then one of your most important responsibilities is to see the potential that people don't see in themselves and draw it out. When you accomplish this, you're doing your job as a leader. Number 2, add key team members. Even if you give every person on your team a chance to learn and grow, and all of them make the most of the opportunities, you may find that you still lack the talent needed to accomplish your dream. That's when it's time to recruit that talent. Sometimes all the team needs is one key person with talent in an area to make the difference between success and failure. Number 3, change the leadership. Various team challenges require different kinds of leadership. If a team has the right talent but still isn't growing, sometimes the best thing you can do is to ask someone from the team who has previously been a follower to step into a leadership role. That transition may occur only for a short season, or it may be permanent. The challenge of the moment often determines the leader for that challenge. Why? Because every person on the team has strengths and weaknesses that come into play. If your team is facing a big challenge and it doesn't seem to be making any progress up the mountain, then it might be time to change leaders. There may be someone on the team more capable for leading during this season. Number 4, remove ineffective members. Sometimes a team member can turn a winning team into a losing one, either through lack of skill or poor attitude. In those cases, you must put the team first and make changes for the greater good. If your team keeps breaking down or falling short, you may need to make changes in your team. Growing a team is demanding and time-consuming. But if you want to achieve your dream, you have no other choice. The greater the dream, the greater the team. As the challenge escalates, the need for teamwork elevates. That is the law of Mount Everest. Teamwork thought for the law of Mount Everest. The size of your dream should determine the size of your team. Law number 5, the law of the chain. The strength of the team is impacted by its weakest link. On March 24, 1989, the news broke that an environmental disaster had occurred in Alaska's Prince William Sound. The oil tanker Exxon Valdez had run aground on the Bligh Reef, damaging the hull of the ship and rupturing 8 of the vessel's 11 cargo tanks. As a result, 10.8 million of the ship's approximately 53 million gallons of oil poured out of the ship and into the sea. The negative impact on the area was immense. Fishing and tourism came to a halt, harming the local economy. And though it wasn't the largest oil spill on record, experts consider it to be the worst spill in history in terms of damage done to the environment. Of course, Exxon, the company that owns the ship, also paid a price. The company's representatives estimate that the incident cost Exxon $3.5 billion. But that's not all. In addition to what Exxon has already paid, the company stands to lose an additional $5 billion in punitive damages a judgment it is still attempting to reverse through the appellate process more than a decade after the incident. What was the cause of such an expensive and far-reaching accident? The answer can be found in the law of the chain. Investigation following the accident painted an ugly picture: neglect of safety standards, indifference to company policy, and an unwise decision-making. The ship's captain had been drinking in the hours before he took command of the ship. One officer, rather than the required two, remained in the wheelhouse as the tanker navigated the Valdez. Nor was a lookout always present on the bridge while the vessel was underway. As much as any team likes to measure itself by its best people, the truth is that the strength of the team is impacted by its weakest link. No matter how much people try to rationalize it, compensate for it, or hide it, a weak link will eventually come to light. That's the law of the chain. One of the mistakes I often made early in my career as a team leader was that I thought everyone who was on my team should remain on the team. That was true for several reasons. First, I naturally see the best in people. When I look at individuals with potential, I see all that they can become, even if they don't see it. And I try to encourage and equip them to become better. Second, I truly like people. I figure the more who take the trip, the bigger the party. Third, because I have vision and believe my goals are worthwhile and beneficial, I sometimes naively assume that everyone will want to go along with me. But just because I wanted to take everyone with me didn't mean that it would always work out that way. I've discovered that when it comes to teamwork, first, not everyone will take the journey. Some people don't want to go. They are comfortable and have built relationships where they are. For other people, the issue is their attitude. They don't want to change, grow, or conquer new territory. They hold fast to the status quo. All you can do with people in this group is kindly thank them for their past contributions and move on. Secondly, not everyone should take the journey. Other people shouldn't join a team because it's a matter of their agenda. They have other plans, and where you're going isn't the right place for them. The best thing you can do for people in this category is wish them well. And as far as you are able, help them on their way so that they can achieve success in their venture. Thirdly, not everyone can take the journey. For the third group of people, the issue is ability. They may not be capable of keeping pace with their teammates or helping the group get where it wants to go. How do you recognize people who fall into this category? They're not very hard to identify. A, they cannot keep pace with other team members. Or B, they don't grow in their area of responsibility. Or C, they don't see the big picture. D, they won't work on personal weaknesses. E, they won't work with the rest of the team. Or finally, F, they can't fulfill the expectations for their area. If you have people who display one or more of those characteristics, then you need to acknowledge that they are weak links. What can you do with people on your team who are weak links? You really have only two choices. You need to either train them or trade them. Of course, your first priority should always be to try to train people who are having a hard time keeping up. Help can come in many forms. Giving people books to read, sending them to conferences, presenting them with new challenges, pairing them with mentors. I believe that people often rise to your level of expectations. Give them hope and training, and they usually improve. But what should you do if a team member continually fails to meet expectations, even after receiving training, encouragement, and opportunities to grow? My father used to have a saying, water seeks its own level. Somebody who is a weak link on your team might be capable of becoming a star on another team. You need to give that person an opportunity to find his level somewhere else. If you are a team leader, you cannot avoid dealing with weak links. Team members who don't carry their own weight slow down the team, and they have an effect on your leadership. Several things may happen when a weak link remains on the team. Number one, the stronger members identify the weak one. A weak link cannot hide. If you have strong people on your team, they always know who isn't performing up to the level of everyone else. Number two, the stronger members have to help the weak one. If your people must work together as a team to do their work, then they have only two choices when it comes to a weak teammate. They can ignore the person and allow the team to suffer, or they can help him and make the team more successful. If they are team players, they will help. Number three, the stronger members come to resent the weak one. Whether strong team members help or not, the results will always be the same: resentment. No one likes to lose or fall behind consistently because of the same person. Number four, the stronger members become less effective. Carrying someone else's load in addition to your own compromises your performance. Do that for a long time and the whole team suffers. Number five, the stronger members question the leader's ability. Anytime the leader allows a weak link to remain a part of the team members forced to compensate for the weak person begin to doubt the leader's courage and discernment. You lose the respect of the best when you don't deal properly with the worst. Many team members may be able to avoid the hard decision of dealing with subpar members, but leaders can't. Weak team members always take more of the team's time than strong ones. One reason is that the more competent people have to give their time to compensate for those who don't carry their share of the load. The power and momentum of the team may be able to compensate for a weak link for a while, but not forever. A weak link eventually robs the team of momentum and potential. Ironically, weak links are less aware than stronger members of their weaknesses and shortcomings. They also spend more time guarding their turf, saving their positions, and holding on to what they have. And know this: when it comes to interaction between people, the weaker person usually controls the relationship. And as long as a weak link is part of the team, everyone else on the team will suffer. Teamwork thought for the law of the chain. The team cannot continually cover up its weakness. Law number 6, the law of the catalyst. Winning teams have players who make things happen. Most teams don't naturally get better on their own. Left alone, they don't grow, improve, and reach championship caliber. Instead, they tend to wind down. The road to the next level is always uphill, and if a team isn't intentionally fighting to move up, then it inevitably slides down. The team loses focus, gets out of rhythm, decreases in energy, breaks down in unity, and loses momentum. At some point, it also loses key players. And it's only a matter of time before it plateaus and ultimately declines into mediocrity. That's why a team that reaches its potential always possesses a catalyst. Catalysts are what I call get it done and then some people. They love stirring up the team, making things happen, doing whatever it takes to push the team to the next level. When a catalyst does that consistently, the team becomes expectant, confident, elevated, and ultimately amazed. That's the law of the catalyst. Winning teams have players who make things happen. When crunch time comes, a catalyst becomes critical, whether it's the salesperson who hits the impossible goal, the ball player who makes the big play, or the parent who gets a child to believe in himself at a critical moment in life. A team cannot reach big goals or even break new ground if it doesn't have a catalyst. My experience with teams has taught me that what is true for sports is also the case for business, ministry, and family relationships. When the clock is running down and the game is on the line, there are really only 3 kinds of people on the team. Number 1, people who don't want the ball. Some people don't have the ability to come through for the team in high-pressure situations, and they know it. As a result, they don't want the responsibility of carrying the team to victory. And it shouldn't be given to them. They should be allowed to play in their areas of strength. Number 2, people who want the ball but shouldn't. A second group contains people who can't carry the team to victory. The problem is that they don't know that they can't. Often the cause is that these players' egos are greater than their talent. These people can be dangerous to a team. Number 3, people who want the ball and should. The final group, which is by far the smallest, consists of people who want to be go-to players at crunch time and who can actually deliver. They are able to push, pull, or carry the team to new levels when the going gets tough. They are the catalyst. Every team needs catalyst if it wants to have any hope of winning consistently. Without them, even a team with loads of talent cannot go to the highest level. It's easy to point out a team's catalyst after he has made an impact on the group and spurred the members on to victory. You can point to particular moments when the person went to a whole new level and took the team there at the same time. But how do you recognize a catalyst before the fact? How do you look for catalytic people for your current team? No matter what kind of team you're on, you can be sure that catalysts have certain characteristics that make them different from their teammates. I have observed that these 9 are often present in the catalyst with whom I've interacted. They are, number 1, intuitive. Catalysts sense things that others don't sense. They may recognize a weakness in an opponent. They may be able to make an intuitive leap that turns a disadvantage into an advantage. They are able to use whatever it is they sense to help the team succeed. Number 2, communicative. Catalysts say things that other team members don't say in order to get the team moving. Sometimes they do it to share with their teammates what they have sensed intuitively so that they will be better prepared to meet the challenge. Other times their purpose is to inspire or incite other team members. And they usually know the difference between when a teammate needs a boost and when he needs a boot. Number 3, passionate. Catalysts feel things that others don't feel. They are passionate about what they do, and they want to share that love with their teammates. Sometimes the passion explodes as a controlled fury to achieve goals in their area of passion. Other times it manifests itself as a contagious enthusiasm. But however it comes out, it can inspire a team to success. Number 4, talented. Catalysts are capable of doing what others cannot do because their talent is as strong as their passion. People rarely become catalysts outside an area of expertise and gifting. That's the case for 2 main reasons. First, talent knows what it takes to win. You can't take the team to the next level when you haven't mastered the skills it takes to succeed on a personal level. It just doesn't happen. The second reason people must have talent in an area where they desire to be a catalyst is that part of being a catalyst is influencing other team members. You can't do that if you have no credibility with them because of your own poor performance. Part of being a catalyst is sharing your gift with others to make them better. You can't give what you don't have. Number 5, creative. Another quality commonly found in catalysts is creativity. Catalysts think things that others do not think. While most team members may do things by rote or by rut, catalysts think differently from their teammates. They are constantly looking for fresh, innovative ways to do things. Sometimes what a catalyst will come up with can change the tempo of a game. Other times their ability to rewrite the rules changes the whole way the game is actually played. Number 6, initiating. Catalysts are not only creative in their thinking, they are disciplined in their actions. They delight in making things happen. That initiative can take almost any form. A baseball manager arguing with an umpire to stir up his players, a parent changing jobs or moving the family to help a struggling child, or a business owner putting up financial incentives for employees to break through barriers. so they initiate. And as a result, they move the team as they move themselves. Number 7, responsible. Catalysts carry things that others do not carry. My friend Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, has a saying, "If it's to be, it's up to me." That could very well be the motto of all catalysts. Catalysts are not consultants. They don't recommend a course of action. They take responsibility for making it happen. Number 8, generous. Catalysts give things that others don't give. A true mark of people taking responsibility is their willingness to give of themselves, to carry something through. Catalysts display that quality. They are prepared to use their resources to better the team, whether that means giving time, spending money, or sacrificing personal gain. Number 9, influential. Catalysts are able to lead teammates in a way that others cannot. Team members will follow a catalyst when they won't respond to anyone else. In the case of a highly talented team member who is not especially gifted in leadership, he may be an effective catalyst in an area of expertise. And people with natural leadership ability will have influence far beyond their own team. When you see many of these 9 qualities in someone on your team, then take heart. When crunch time comes, he or she is likely to step up to a whole new level of performance and attempt to take the team there too. At my company, the Enjoy Group, a number of team members are catalysts within the organization, but none is stronger than Dave Sutherland, the CEO. Dave came on board in 1994 as the president of ISS, the division of the Enjoy Group that helps churches with fundraising through capital stewardship campaigns. Just prior to his coming on board, I had given serious thought to shutting down that arm of the organization. ISS wasn't supporting itself financially, and it wasn't having the positive influence I had hoped for. But I believed that Dave Sutherland's leadership could make a difference. Soon after I hired him, I began seeing progress at Enjoy Stewardship Services. The second year that Dave was with me, the company had some pretty aggressive goals. That year, the company's goal had been to partner with 80 churches, more than twice as many as it had the previous year. And each partnership could come only after a personal presentation to a church's board and their acceptance of our offer to help. One day during the first week of December, I stopped by Dave's office and spoke to his wife, Roxine, who works as his assistant. I hadn't seen Dave in a while, and I asked her where he was. "He's on the road making a presentation," she said. I thought that was a little odd because the company had several key people whose job it was to make the presentations to churches. "On the road? When will he be back?" I asked. "Well, let's see," said Roxine. "When he left the Monday after Thanksgiving, we still needed 24 more churches to reach our goal. Dave said he won't be home until we reach it." Dave was on the road until December the 19th, but he made the goal. Dave's tenacity and ability serve him well, but they also serve the team well. By reaching that goal, Dave made every person on the team a winner that year, and everyone in the company used the momentum that he created to take ISS to a whole new level. A year later, ISS became the second largest company of its type in the world, and by the end of the year 2000, it had helped more than 1,000 churches across America raise more than $1 billion. When you have a Dave Sutherland on your team, you always have a chance to win. Catalysts are get it done and then some people. Why is that important? Because winning teams have players who make things happen. Without them, a team will never reach its potential. That is the truth of the law of the catalyst. Teamwork thought for the law of the catalyst. Games are won by get it done and then some people. Law number 7, the law of the compass. Vision gives team members direction and confidence. For nearly 100 years, IBM has been a rock of American business standing firm in a stream of competition. And the source of its strength was business and technological innovation. But for all its advances by the late 1980s and the early 1990s, the company was struggling. For a decade, IBM had been slow to react to technological changes. As a result, by 1991, it suffered $8 billion in losses every year. And even though IBM fought to regain ground technologically, consumers' favorable perceptions of the company was at an all-time low. If something didn't change, IBM was going to be in trouble. Then in 1993, IBM got a new CEO who quickly began recruiting key members for IBM's executive committee. Perhaps the most important addition was Abby Constam, who was invited to be IBM's Senior Vice President of Marketing. Constam was eager to get started. She believed the company's products were strong enough, but its marketing was weak. When she arrived at IBM, what she found was much worse than she had expected. Not only was IBM failing to reach customers effectively, when it came to the marketing department, employees weren't even sure who did what or why. For example, when Constam asked how many employees were in the marketing area, she couldn't get the same answer from any two employees. Constam's desire was to give the entire IBM team a single unifying theme for the hardware, software, and services they had to offer. Before long, she had found it. The company adopted the concept of e-business. Constam asserts, e-business is the single focal point for the company and is the single largest marketing effort ever undertaken by IBM. The vision seems to be working. Steve Gardner, an ad agency owner who once promoted Compaq, says, the most stunning thing about e-business was that it transformed IBM from perceived laggard to leader in the Internet space without any real change in its lines of product or services. That's an astonishing achievement. Where once IBM was struggling, it now has renewed direction and confidence. Maureen McGuire, Vice President of Marketing Communications, commented, the campaign has galvanized employees. We're trying to get all those people to sing the same song, read from the same book. For a company that hadn't sung for a long time, that's a momentous achievement. And it just goes to show you, vision gives team members direction and confidence. That's the power of the law of the compass. Have you ever been part of a team that didn't seem to make any progress? Maybe the group had plenty of talent, resources, and opportunities, and team members got along, but the group just never went anywhere. If you have, there's a strong possibility that the situation was caused by lack of vision. Great vision precedes great achievement. Every team needs a compelling vision to give it direction. A team without vision is, at worst, purposeless. At best, it is subject to the personal agendas of its various teammates. As the agendas work against each other, the team's energy and drive drain away. On the other hand, a team that embraces a vision becomes focused, energized, and confident. It knows where it's headed and why it's going there. If you lead your team, then you're responsible for identifying a worthy and compelling vision and articulating it to your team members. However, even if you are not the leader, identifying a compelling vision is still important. If you don't know the team's vision, you can't perform with confidence. You can't be sure you and your teammates are going in the right direction. You can't even be sure that the team you're on is the right one for you if you haven't examined the vision in light of your strengths, convictions, and purpose. For everyone on the team, the vision needs to be compelling. How do you measure a vision? How do you know whether it is worthy and compelling? You check your compass. Every team needs one. In fact, every team needs several. A team should examine the following 6 compasses before embarking on any journey. A team's vision must be aligned with, number 1, a moral compass. Look above. A moral compass brings integrity to the vision. It helps all the people on the team to check their motives and make sure that they are laboring for the right reasons. It also brings credibility to the leaders who cast the vision, but only if they model the values that the team is expected to embrace. When they do, they bring fuel to the vision, which keeps it going. Number 2, an intuitive compass. Look within. Where integrity brings fuel to the vision, passion brings fire. And the true fire of passion and conviction comes only from within. In the Leadership Challenge, James Kouzes and Barry Posner explain that visions spring forth from our intuition. Experience feeds our intuition and enhances our insight. A vision must resonate deep within the leader of the team. Then it must resonate within the team members, who will be asked to work hard to bring it to fruition. Intuitive passion brings the kind of heat that fires up the committed and fries the uncommitted. Number 3, a historical compass. Look behind. There's an old saying that I learned when I lived in rural Indiana. Don't remove the fence before you know why it's there. A compelling vision should build on the past, not diminish it. It should make positive use of anything contributed by previous teams in the organization. Number 4, a directional compass. Look ahead. As I already mentioned, vision provides direction for the team. Part of that direction comes from a sense of purpose. Another comes from having goals which bring targets to the vision. A goal motivates the team. Number 5, a strategic compass. Look around. A goal won't do the team much good without steps to accomplish it. The value of a strategy is that it brings process to the vision. It identifies resources and mobilizes the members of the team. People need more than information and inspiration. They need instruction in what to do to make the vision become reality and a way to get there. Vision without strategy is little more than a daydream. Number 6, a visionary compass. Look beyond. The vision of the team must look beyond current circumstances and any obvious shortcomings of current teammates to see the potential of the team. A truly great vision speaks to what team members can become if they really live out their values and work according to their highest standards. Without a challenge, many people tend to fall or fade away. Charles Noble observed, "You must have a long-range vision to keep you from being frustrated by short-range failures." That's true. Someone said that only people who can see the invisible can do the impossible. That shows the value of vision. But it also indicates that vision can be an elusive quality. If you can confidently measure the vision of your team according to these 6 compasses, and you find them all aligned in the right direction, then your team has a reasonably good chance at success. And make no mistake, not only can a team fail to thrive without vision, it cannot even survive without it. The words of King Solomon of ancient Israel are true. Where there is no vision, the people perish. Vision gives team members direction and confidence, 2 things they cannot do without. That is the critical nature of the law of the compass. Teamwork thought for the law of the compass. When you see it, you can seize it. Law number 8, the law of the bad apple. Rotten attitudes ruin a team. Growing up, I loved basketball. By the time I got to high school, I had become a pretty good player. I started on the junior varsity team as a freshman, and when I was a sophomore, our JV team had a 15-3 record, which was better than that of the varsity. We were proud of that, maybe a little too proud. I say that because of something that happened during my junior year. That next year, critics who followed high school basketball in Ohio thought that our team had a chance to win the state championship in our division. I guess they looked at the players who would return as seniors from the previous year's varsity team and saw the talent that was moving up from the JV, and they figured that we would become a powerhouse. But the season turned out far different from everyone's expectations. From the beginning of the season, the team suffered problems. There were 2 of us, juniors, on the varsity who had the talent to start for the team. John Thomas, who was the team's best rebounder, and me, the best shooting guard. We thought playing time should be based strictly on ability, and we figured we deserved our place on the team. The seniors, who had taken a backseat to the previous year's seniors, thought that we should be made to pay our dues and wait. What began as a rivalry between the JV and the varsity the year before turned out to be a war between the juniors and the seniors. When we scrimmaged at practice, it was the juniors against the seniors. In games, the seniors wouldn't pass to the juniors and vice versa. We judged our success not by whether the team won or lost, but by whether the juniors' stats were better than those of the seniors. If we outshot, outpassed, and out-rebounded the seniors, then we thought we had won the game, regardless of the outcome against our opponent. The battles became so fierce that before long, the juniors and seniors wouldn't even work together on the court during games. Coach Neff had to platoon us. The seniors would start, and when a substitution became necessary, he would put not one but 5 juniors in the game. We became 2 teams on one roster. I don't remember exactly who started the rivalry that split our team, but I do remember that John Thomas and I embraced it early on. I've always been a leader, and I did my share of influencing other team members. Unfortunately, I have to confess that I led the juniors in the wrong direction. What started as a bad attitude in 1 or 2 players made a mess of the situation for everyone. By the time we were in the thick of our schedule, even the players who didn't want to take part in the rivalry were affected. The season was a disaster. In the end, we finished with a mediocre record and never came close to reaching our potential. It just goes to show you, rotten attitudes ruin a team. That's the law of the bad apple. From my high school basketball experience, I learned that talent is not enough to bring success to a team. My high school teammates were loaded with talent, and if that were enough, we could have been state champions. But we are also loaded with rotten attitudes. You know which won the battle between talent and attitude in the end. Perhaps that is why, to this day, I understand the importance of a positive attitude and have placed such a strong emphasis on it for myself, for my children as they were growing up, and for the teams I lead. Good attitudes among players do not guarantee a team's success, but bad attitudes guarantee its failure. The following 5 truths about attitudes clarify how they affect a team and teamwork. Truth number 1. Attitudes have the power to lift up or tear down a team. In The Winner's Edge, Dennis Waitley stated, "The real leaders in business, in the professional community, in education, in government, and in the home also seem to draw upon a special cutting edge that separates them from the rest of society. The winner's edge is not in a gifted birth, in a high IQ, or in talent. The winner's edge is in the attitude, not aptitude." Unfortunately, I think too many people resist that notion. They want to believe that talent alone, or talent with experience, is enough. But plenty of talented teams out there never amount to anything because of the attitudes of their players. When attitude goes up, so does the potential of the team. When attitude goes down, the potential of the team goes with it. Truth number 2. An attitude compounds when exposed to others. Several things on a team are not contagious: talent, experience, willingness to practice. But you can be sure of one thing: attitude is catching. When someone on the team is teachable and his humility is rewarded by improvement, others are more likely to display similar characteristics. When a leader is upbeat in the face of discouraging circumstances, others admire that quality and want to be like her. When a team member displays a strong work ethic and begins to have a positive impact, others imitate him. People become inspired by their peers. People have a tendency to adopt the attitudes of those they spend time with, to pick up on their mindset, beliefs, and approaches to challenges. Attitudes are contagious. Truth number 3. Bad attitudes compound faster than good ones. There's only one thing more contagious than a good attitude, and that's a bad one. For some reason, many people think it's chic to be negative. I suspect that they think it makes them appear smart or important. But the truth is that a negative attitude hurts rather than helps the person who has it. and it also hurts the people around him. A wise baseball manager once remarked that he never allowed the positive players to room with the negative ones on the road. When he created the team's room assignments, he always put the negative ones together so that they couldn't poison anyone else. Truth number 4. Attitudes are subjective, so identifying a wrong one can be difficult. Have you ever interacted with someone for the first time and suspected that his attitude was poor, yet you were unable to put your finger on exactly what was wrong? I believe many people have that experience. The reason people doubt their observations about others' attitudes is that attitudes are subjective. Someone with a bad attitude may not do anything illegal or unethical, yet his attitude may be ruining the team just the same. People always project on the outside how they feel on the inside. Attitude is really about how a person is. That overflows into how he acts. Allow me to share with you common rotten attitudes that ruin a team so that you can recognize them for what they are when you see them. A, an inability to admit wrongdoing. B, failing to forgive. C, petty jealousy. D, the disease of me, where team members develop an overpowering belief in their own importance. Or E, a critical spirit and a desire to hog all the credit. Certainly there are other negative attitudes that I haven't named, but my intention isn't to list every bad attitude, just some of the most common ones. In a word, most bad attitudes are a result of selfishness. If one of your teammates puts others down, sabotages teamwork, or makes himself out to be more important than the team, then you can be sure that you've encountered someone with a bad attitude. Truth number 5. Rotten attitudes, left alone, ruin everything. Bad attitudes must be addressed. You can be sure that they will always cause dissension, resentment, combativeness, and division on a team. And they will never go away on their own if they are left unaddressed. They will simply fester and ruin a team along with its chances of reaching its potential. Because people with bad attitudes are so difficult to deal with, and because attitudes seem so subjective, you may doubt your gut reaction when you encounter a bad apple. After all, if it's only your opinion that he has a rotten attitude, then you have no right to address it, right? Not if you care about the team. Rotten attitudes ruin a team. That is always true. If you leave a bad apple in a barrel of good apples, you will always end up with a barrel of rotten apples. If you care about your team and you're committed to helping all of the players, you cannot ignore a bad attitude. If you do, you will find out the hard way about the law of the bad apple. Attitude colors everything someone does. It determines how an individual sees the world and interacts with other people. A person's attitude, positively if it's good, negatively if it's not, always impacts his performance regardless of talent, track record, or circumstances. If you want to give your team the best chance for success, then practice the law of the bad apple. Trade your bad apples for good ones, and you have a chance because rotten attitudes ruin a team. Teamwork thought for the law of the bad apple. Your attitude determines the team's attitude. Law number 9, the law of accountability. Teammates must be able to count on each other when it counts. One of the many strong points of Atlanta, Georgia, where I moved my family and companies in 1997, is that it's a sports town. When the announcement was made that Atlanta would be getting a new hockey team, plans were set in motion to build the team a new arena. The old Omni, where the Hawks had played since the early 1970s, was slated to be demolished and replaced on the same site by the Phillips Arena. Tearing the Omni down wasn't going to be a routine process. First, it needed to be done quickly so that construction could begin on the new arena. Second, because the old structure had a cantilevered roof, taking the building apart in opposite order from the way it was constructed was out of the question. It would be far too dangerous for the demolition crews. That left only one choice: blowing it up. When demolition crews need help blowing up a building, or more accurately, imploding a building, they inevitably turn to the Loiseau family, the people who pioneered the safe demolition of buildings using explosives. They are owners and founders of Controlled Demolition Incorporated. The company was founded by Jack Loiseau, who had started the company in the 1940s. He and his wife Freddie ran the business in the beginning, but it wasn't long before they were joined by their sons, Mark and Doug. When Jack retired in 1976, his sons took over the operation. Today, they are joined by several of Mark's children, including his daughter Stacy in her early 30s, who has worked in the field since age 15 and is already an expert in her own right. When the family was contacted for the Omni job, they quickly discovered that the demolition wouldn't be easy because of the Omni's proximity to other buildings. On one side was the World Congress Center, which is used for conventions. On the other side was a station for MARTA, Atlanta's mass transit rail system. On the third was the CNN Center, from which cable and radio programming broadcast 24 hours a day. And CNN Plaza was a mere 13 feet away from the Omni. A mistake could damage the MARTA line and shut it down in one of its busiest stations. Or it could put CNN News temporarily out of business. And of course, in a worst-case scenario, the Omni could topple in the wrong direction and take down the CNN building itself. It would take every bit of the family's expertise and 50 years of experience to do the task right. Using explosives to take down a building is always a dangerous undertaking. Each project is different and requires a custom-made strategy. Now, obviously, there is a risk any time someone works with explosives. But the greatest danger comes in the way explosives are rigged to go off. To get the building to fall in on itself, the family and their crew have to precisely sequence the charges, often using delays that differ from one another by the tiniest fractions of a second. That was the case for the Omni, where first the roof needed to fall straight down. Then 3 of the walls would need to fall inward, and then the 4th wall outward. And on July 26, 1997, at 6:53 a.m., that's exactly the way it happened. The demolition took 10 seconds. When it comes to blowing up a building the way the Loiseaus do, everything has to go right, from analyzing the building to planning the demolition to transporting the explosives to rigging the devices to preparing the building for the safety of the surrounding area. If anyone on the crew fails to get his part right and lets the other members of the team down, not only does the CDI team fail in its objective, but it also puts a lot of people and property in danger. Teammates must be able to count on each other when it counts. That's the law of accountability. The importance of the law of accountability is clearest when the stakes are high, but you don't have to be in an explosive situation for the law to come into play. The person running a business who is trying to get out a product on schedule depends on her vendors to deliver on their promises during crunch time. The waiter trying to please his customer counts on the kitchen staff to prepare the food properly. The parent getting ready for a job interview has to know the babysitter will show up as promised. If there is a breakdown in accountability, then the account is lost. The customer goes away unhappy, and the job goes to some other candidate. Teammates must be able to count on each other when it counts. Stanley C. Galt asserted, "We don't work for each other, we work with each other." That is the essence of accountability. It's the ability and desire for teammates to work together toward common goals. But that doesn't happen on its own. Nor is accountability a given. It has to be earned. Team members who can depend on each other only during the easy times have not developed accountability. I believe that there is a formula for accountability. It's not complicated, but its impact is powerful. Here it is. Character plus confidence plus commitment plus consistency plus cohesion equal accountability. When every member embraces each of these 5 qualities within himself and with others, the team can achieve the accountability that is necessary to succeed. Number 1, character. Accountability begins with character because it is based on trust, which is the foundation for all interaction with people. If you cannot trust someone, you will not count on him. So anytime you desire to build a team, you have to begin by building character in the individuals who make up the team. Number 2, confidence. Character is the most important thing, but it's not the only thing. If you have any doubts about that, consider this. If you had to go into surgery because of a life-threatening illness, would you be happier having a good surgeon who was a bad person or a good person who was a bad surgeon? That puts it in perspective, doesn't it? Competence matters. And if the person is going to be on the same team with you, you want competence and character. Number 3, commitment. Having fair-weather team members doesn't make for a very pleasant team experience. When times are tough, you want to know that you can count on your teammates. You don't want to be wondering whether they're going to hang in there with you. My friend Randy Watts, who pastors a church in Virginia, sent me a note after a conference where I taught the law of accountability. He wrote, "Years ago, a friend of mine attended the Virginia Military Institute, known for its rugged physical, mental, and emotional training. He told me that all the incoming freshmen are separated into companies. One of their training obstacles is to race up House Mountain, which is very steep and more than a challenge. The motivation for climbing: if you finish last, you run again. Not you, but your whole company. This makes for team commitment. If a person in your company twists an ankle or breaks a leg, other members of his company carry him. It is not enough to be the first man on top of the mountain. Everyone on the team has to make it." Real teamwork requires that kind of commitment. Consistency. Every once in a while, somebody comes along who defines consistency for the rest of his teammates. In the case of the Atlanta Braves, I believe that person is Greg Maddux. He is the only pitcher in baseball's history to have won the Cy Young Award 4 times in a row, from 1992 to 1995. For all of Maddox's awards for pitching and noteworthy status, do you know what has been his most remarkable honor? He has been recognized as the National League's best fielder in his position by receiving a Gold Glove 10 years in a row. Many great pitchers are not known for their fielding. When a difficult ball is hit to a pitcher, or when the pitcher has to cover first base on a tough play to the right side of the infield, many times the other players on the team hold their collective breath. If anyone on the field is likely to make a fielding mistake, it's the pitcher. But not Maddux. He works at his fielding with the same fantastic work ethic that has made him an outstanding pitcher. The result is a career that has seen only 14 errors in 15 years, with 2 seasons of error-free fielding. If you want your teammates to have confidence in you, to know that they can count on you day in and day out, then use someone like Maddux as your example. Consistency is key. Number 5, cohesion. Teammates need to develop cohesion. That's the ability to hold together no matter how difficult the circumstances become. Navy SEAL John Rote describes cohesion this way: unit cohesion is one of those terms that everyone thinks they understand. In truth, most people don't have a clue. It is definitely not about everybody liking each other or being nice. It means you have a pride in the ability of your group to function at a higher level than possible for the individual. The unit doesn't shine because you're a member. You shine because you're good enough to be a member. There's an old saying when it comes to teams: either we're pulling together or we're pulling apart. Without cohesion, people aren't really a team because they're not pulling together. They're merely a group of individuals working for the same organization. Novelist and civil rights activist James Baldwin asserted, "The moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us and the light goes out. When it comes down to it, accountability is being able to have faith in your teammates no matter what happens. When the chips are down, you can turn to the people on your team. Let's face it, you can't do anything that counts unless you have accountability. Teammates must be able to count on each other when it really counts. Teamwork thought for the law of accountability. The greatest compliment you can receive is being counted on. Law number 10, the law of the price tag. The team fails to reach its potential when it fails to pay the price. On December 28, 2000, one of the nation's oldest retailers, Montgomery Ward and Company, announced that it would be filing for bankruptcy and closing its doors forever. That announcement saddened the people of Chicago, for Ward had been an institution in that city for more than a century. What's even sadder is that the company's failure might have been avoided if leaders had learned and practiced the law of the price tag before it was too late. The retailing chain's early history is really quite remarkable. The company was founded in 1872 by Aaron Montgomery Ward, a young salesman who had worked for various dry goods merchants throughout the Midwest and South. While he was working in rural areas far from cities or large towns, he discovered that many consumers in remote areas were at the mercy of local merchants who often overcharged them for merchandise. That gave him an idea. What if he bought dry goods directly from manufacturers for cash and sold them for cash via mail order to rural customers, thus eliminating the middlemen who were gouging those customers? But before he could follow through with his plan, the devastating Chicago fire of 1871 destroyed his stock and price sheets. The setback didn't stop Ward. And in 1872, the world's first general merchandise mail-order catalog opened for business. At first, Ward was only moderately successful, but in 1875, Ward and his new partner, George Thorne, came up with a novel idea. They decided to include a new credo in their catalog. It said, "Satisfaction guaranteed or your money back." And the business took off. Ward's tenacity and willingness to pay the price for starting his own business came to fruition less than a decade later. The company that had begun with $1,600 of capital in 1872 had sales of $300,000 in 1878. 9 years after that, the company's sales rose to $1 million. By the turn of the century, Montgomery Ward and Company's catalog, which would come to be known as the Wish Book, grew to 500 pages and was being mailed to more than 1 million people every year. Then in 1901, Montgomery Ward retired in order to spend the final years of his life working to make Chicago a better place. During the first 2 decades of the new century, the company continued to thrive, but in the late 1910s, things began to change. Ward's success had prompted the start of another Chicago-based company in 1886, Sears, Roebuck and Company. At that time, most of the U.S. population lived in rural areas, but the country was changing. Cities were filling up. And the 1920 census showed that for the first time in the nation's history, the majority of the population lived in urban centers. Robert E. Wood was brought in to run Montgomery Ward in 1919, and he saw the coming boom in retail sales. He wanted to begin opening stores in cities where people could shop in person, but the owners were unwilling to go along with the idea. They simply would not pay the price to make the change. Knowing where the future lay in the business, Wood left Ward. In 1924, he went on staff at rival Sears as vice president. He convinced the people who ran Sears to take a chance on retail store sales. They agreed to open one store in Chicago as a test the following year. It was an immediate success, and by 1929, the company had built more than 300 stores. Even during the Depression, Sears continued to expand, and in 1931, Sears retail store sales surpassed catalog sales. Sears became the most successful department store chain in the country. Montgomery Ward and Company never really recovered from that early error. It opened some retail stores, but it wasn't aggressive enough to overtake Sears. Time after time, Ward failed to pay the price, and during the Depression, the company hoarded cash and stopped expansion while Sears gained more ground. After World War II, when other stores began moving into the suburbs, Ward failed to seize the opportunity to try to get back on top. Each time the market changed, the company's leaders didn't pay the price necessary to win a market. For the last 25 years of the 20th century, they struggled to keep their doors open. Finally, after 128 years in business, Montgomery Ward closed. That's what can happen when people violate the law of the price tag. If a team doesn't reach its potential, seldom is ability the issue. It's rarely a matter of resources either. It's almost always a payment issue. One of the reasons teams fail to pay the price to reach their potential is that they misunderstand the law of the price tag. They honestly don't know how it works. Allow me to give you 4 truths about this law that will help you clarify it in your mind. Number 1, the price must be paid by everyone. People who've never had the experience of being on a winning team often fail to realize that every team member must pay a price. I think some of them think that if others work hard, they can coast to their potential. But that is never true. If everyone doesn't pay the price to win, then everyone will pay the price by losing. Number 2, the price must be paid all the time. Many people have what I call destination disease. It makes us believe that we can stop working, stop striving, stop paying the price, yet still reach our potential. But as Earl Blake, former football coach of the United States Military Academy, observed, there is no substitute for work. It is the price of success. That truth never goes away. If you want to reach your potential, you can never let up. Number 3, the price increases if the team wants to improve, change, or keep winning. Becoming a champion has a high price, but remaining on top costs even more. And improving upon your best is even more costly. The higher you are, the more you have to pay to make even small improvements. World champion sprinters improve their time not by seconds, but by hundredths of a second. No one can move closer to his potential without paying in some way to get there. Number 4, the price never decreases. Most people who quit don't give up at the bottom of the mountain. They stop halfway up. Nobody sets out with the purpose of losing. The problem is often a mistaken belief that a time will come when success will suddenly get cheaper. But life rarely works that way. Maybe that kind of thinking was the problem with Montgomery Ward and Company. In 1919, when the decision-makers had the chance to make Ward one of the first big companies to open a chain of retail stores, they probably evaluated that it would cost them in terms of time, money, effort, change, and they thought it was too great a price to pay, so they passed on the opportunity. A few years later, when Sears began to breeze past Ward, the cost to compete was even higher. The company paid to get into retail store sales, yet it was still behind. That price continued to go up year after year, especially as Sears beat Ward in securing prime locations. Even as late as the 1970s and 80s, Ward paid more and more to improve, yet fell farther and farther behind. The company dabbled in various niches, trying to compete against Walmart, Target, and Circus City. But it kept getting clobbered. The leaders thought the price would be less the next time, but it kept going up and up. When it comes to the law of the price tag, I believe there are really only 2 kinds of teams who violate it. Those who don't realize the price of success, and those who know the price but are not willing to pay it. No one can force a team member to have the will to succeed. Each person must decide in his own heart whether the goal is worth the price that must be paid. But every person ought to know what to expect to pay in order for a team to succeed. People can choose to stand on the sidelines of life, refusing to pay the price and try to do everything solo. Or they can get into the game by being part of the team. It's a trade-off between independence and interdependence. The rewards of teamwork can be great, but there is always a cost. You always have to give up to go up. Teamwork thought for the law of the price tag. You seldom get more than you pay for. Law number 11, the law of the scoreboard. The team can make adjustments when it knows where it stands. Every game or business has its own rules and its own definition of what it means to win. Some teams measure their success in points scored, others in profits. Still others may look at the number of people they serve. But no matter what the game is, there is always a scoreboard. And if a team is to accomplish its goals, it has to know where it stands. It has to look at itself in light of the scoreboard. Why is that so important? Because teams that succeed make adjustments to continually improve themselves and their situations. For example, think about how a football team approaches a game. Before the competition starts, the team spends a tremendous amount of time planning. Players study hours of game film. They spend days figuring out their opponent and what they are likely to do. And they decide the best way to win. They come up with a detailed game plan. As the game begins, the game plan is very important. The scoreboard means nothing. But as the game goes on, the game plan means less and less, and the scoreboard becomes more and more significant. Why? Because the game is constantly changing. You see, the game plan tells what you want to happen, but the scoreboard tells what is happening. No team can ignore the reality of its situation and win. And for any kind of a team, the scoreboard is essential in the following ways. Number one, the scoreboard is essential to understanding. In sports, players, coaches, and fans understand the importance of the scoreboard. That's why it's so visible at every stadium, arena, and ball field. The scoreboard provides a snapshot of the game at any given time. If you arrive at a game halfway into it, you can look at the scoreboard and assess the situation well. I'm often surprised by how many people outside sports try to succeed without a scoreboard. Some families operate their households without budgets, yet wonder why they are in debt. Some small business owners go year after year without tracking sales or creating a balance sheet and wonder why they can't grow the business. Some pastors busy themselves with worthy activities, but never stop to measure whether they are reaching people or performing according to biblical standards. Number two, the scoreboard is essential to evaluating. I believe that personal growth is a key to success. That's why I've taught lessons on growth at conferences and in books for more than 20 years. A key principle I teach is this: growth equals change. This sounds overly simple, doesn't it? But people sometimes lose sight of the fact that they cannot grow and remain the same at the same time. And when it comes to growth, change alone is not enough. If you want to become better, you have to change in the right direction. You can do that only if you're able to evaluate yourself and your teammates. That is another reason for the scoreboard. It gives you continual feedback. Competing without a scoreboard is like bowling without pins. You may be working hard, but you don't really know how you're doing. Number three, the scoreboard is essential to decision making. Once you've evaluated your situation, you're ready to make decisions. In football, the quarterback uses information from the scoreboard to decide what play to call. In baseball, the scoreboard helps the manager know when to bring in a relief pitcher. In basketball, it can be used to determine whether to call a timeout. Number four, the scoreboard is essential to adjusting. The higher the level on which you and your team are competing, the smaller the adjustments become to achieving your best. But making key adjustments is the secret to winning, and the scoreboard helps you to see where the adjustments need to be made. Number five, the scoreboard is essential to winning. In the end, nobody can win without the scoreboard. How do you know when the game is on the line without the scoreboard? How do you know when time is running out unless you check the scoreboard? How will you know if it's cruise time or crunch time unless you have a scoreboard as a measuring device? If your desire is to take a leisurely drive with some friends, then you don't need to worry about a thing. But if you're trying to win the Indy 500, then you and your team must know how you're doing. Some organizations view the scoreboard as a necessary evil. Others try to ignore it, something they cannot do for long and still do well in their profession. And some organizations make checking the scoreboard such an integral part of their culture that they are continually able to recognize and seize opportunities leading to huge success. That is certainly the case for eBay. I'm not a technical person. I don't have a computer. I don't even know how to use one. So I have not used eBay. I first heard about it from friends who are collectors. They talked about being able to find things they wanted through auctions held on the Internet. Then I started seeing articles about eBay in the financial pages, and I read about the company's president and CEO, Meg Whitman. eBay is an e-commerce company that specializes in connecting buyers and sellers of goods online. It was founded by Pierre Omidyar in his San Jose, California living room in September of 1995 with the idea of helping people find used, rare, or collectible items. The idea took off and became so successful that Omidyar soon recognized that he was in over his head. That's when he hired Meg Whitman, who had an MBA from Harvard and a tremendous leadership experience with Hasbro, FTD, and the Walt Disney Company. She has taken the company to a whole new level. Because eBay's job is connecting people, not selling them things, it isn't lumbered with the traditional retailing cost structure, says Whitman. eBay is the only e-tailer that really fulfills the promise of the web. The real genius of eBay is its mastery of the law of the scoreboard. It constantly makes adjustments because it knows where it stands. And that is what keeps it ahead. In the case of eBay, the scoreboard is the desires and interests of its customers and potential customers. Sensing that many people are uneasy with conducting monetary transactions on the Internet, eBay made trust, safety, and privacy hallmarks of the company. Knowing that people wanted to get specific feedback on the individuals selling merchandise on the site, eBay created a unique rating system that allows subscribers to exchange information. The company even created a spatial consumer insight group to track what people want. Over the last 3 years, eBay has learned everything it can about its users and what they want while keeping its finger on the pulse of the larger consumer trends. The company has expanded from being a place to trade Beanie Babies to a multifaceted auction site that offers a variety of other services. In 2000, eBay had over 22 million registered users, controlled 80% of the online auction market, and had revenues of $430 million, up 92% from 1999. While other Internet-based companies are struggling to survive and searching for ways to finally make a profit, eBay seems poised to keep growing and winning. Why? Because the eBay team always has an eye on the scoreboard, and the team can make adjustments when it knows where it stands. That's the law of the scoreboard. Teamwork thought for the law of the scoreboard? When you know what to do, then you can do what you know. Law number 12, the law of the bench. Great teams have great depth. Have you ever heard the expression, "It's not over until the fat lady sings"? Or Yogi Berra's famous comment, "It ain't over till it's over"? Would you be surprised to know that sometimes it is over before it's over? And you can know when that is if you know the law of the bench. Let me give you an example. One Saturday in September of 2000, I went to a football game with some friends. We were looking forward to an exciting game between Georgia Tech and Florida State. There's an intense rivalry between all Georgia and Florida college teams, so the teams can get pretty pumped up. And on that day, we weren't disappointed. The teams were battling and the score was close. Tech was playing its heart out. But as the third quarter came to a close, I said, "Come on, guys, this one is over." The guys were surprised by my desire to leave, especially since the game was close and Tech had finally pulled ahead 15-12. One of them asked, You don't want to see the end of the game. No, this game is over, I said. Let's go to the car. On our way back, we talked about it. It's true that Tech was hanging in there against FSU, but I had noticed throughout the course of the game that while Tech starters were still in the game, FSU had been substituting many players from the bench, and the team's level of play had not been negatively affected. Because of that, I knew that it was only a matter of time before Tech's players would be worn down by the powerful bench of FSU. And sure enough, the final score was 26-21, and Florida State was on top. That's the impact of the law of the bench. Great teams have great depth. It's not difficult to see the importance of having well-trained, capable reserve players who sit on the bench in sports. In the NBA, players and fans have long recognized the impact of the bench by talking about the all-important sixth man, the person who makes a significant contribution to the team's success, yet isn't one of the 5 starters on the basketball court. A great starter alone is simply not enough if a team wants to go to the highest level. Any team that wants to excel must have good substitutes as well as starters. That's true in any field, not just sports. You may be able to do some wonderful things with a handful of top people, but if you want your team to do well over the long haul, you've got to build your bench. A great team with no bench eventually will collapse. In sports, it's easy to define which people are the starters and which make up the bench. But how do you define them in other fields? I want to suggest the following definitions. Starters are frontline people who directly add value to the organization or who directly influence its course. The bench is made up of the people who indirectly add value to the organization or who support the starters. A team's starters are the people most often in the spotlight, and as a result, they get most of the credit, and the people on the bench are liable to be neglected or overlooked. In fact, the people most likely to discount or discredit the contribution of the bench may be the starters. Some key players enjoy reminding substitutes that they are riding the pine. But any starter who minimizes the contributions of the bench is self-centered and underestimates what it takes for a team to be a success and doesn't understand that great teams have great depth. Every human being has value, and every player on a team adds value to the team in some way. These truths alone should be enough to make team members care about the bench players. But there are also more specific reasons to honor and develop the players who may not be considered starters. Here are several. Number 1, today's bench players may be tomorrow's stars. Rare are the people who begin their careers as stars. Most go through an apprenticeship or period of seasoning. And with the way people like to move from job to job today, and even from career to career, good leaders should always keep their eyes open for emerging talent. Never be in a hurry to pigeonhole anyone on your team as a non-starter. Given the right encouragement, training, and opportunities, nearly anyone who has the desire has the potential to emerge someday as an effective player. Number 2, the success of a supporting player can multiply the success of a starter. When every team member fulfills the role that best suits his talents, gifts, and experience, and excels in that role, then the team really hums. The achievement of the whole team makes the starters flourish, and the achievement of the starters make the team flourish. The whole team really is greater than the sum of its parts. Or to put it in the way that John Wooden did, the main ingredient of stardom is the rest of the team. Number 3, there are more bench players than starters. If you read through the roster of any successful team, you will see that the starters are always outnumbered by the other people on the team. In the entertainment industry, the actors are often known, but hundreds of crew members necessary to make a movie aren't. In ministry, everyone recognizes the people up front during a worship service, but it takes scores of people working behind the scenes to bring that service together. For any politician or corporate executive or big-name fashion designer that you know about, there are hundreds of people toiling quietly in the background to make the person's work possible. Nobody can neglect the majority of the team and hope to be successful. Number 4, A bench player placed correctly will at times be more valuable than a starter. I think if you ask most people how they would classify administrative assistants as team members, they would tell you that they consider them to be bench players since their primary role is support. I would agree with that, although in some cases administrative people have direct influence on an organization. Take, for example, my assistant, Linda Eggers. I think Linda is capable of doing about anything, but she has chosen to take a supporting role as my assistant. And in that position, she makes a huge impact. Today, my company has more than 200 employees. I respect and value all of them, but if I lost everything tomorrow and I could only keep 5 or 6 people with whom to start over from scratch, Linda would be one of the people I would fight to keep. Number 5, a strong bench gives the leader more options. When a team has no bench, the only option of its leader is moving the starters around to maximize their effectiveness. If a starter can't perform, the team is out of luck. When the team has a weak bench, the leader has a few options, but they are often not very good. But when a team has a great bench, the options are almost endless. Number 6, the bench is usually called upon at critical times for the team. When an army is in trouble, what does it do? It calls up the reserves. That's the way it is in every area of life. You don't need the bench when things are going well. You need it when things aren't going well. When the starter gets hurt and the game is in jeopardy, a substitute steps in. That person's effectiveness often determines the team's success. If your team is experiencing a tough time, then you know the importance of having a good bench. But if you're experiencing a smooth period, then now is the time to develop your backup players. Build the bench today for the crisis that you will face tomorrow. As you think about the starters and the bench players on your team, recognize that the future of your team can be predicted by 3 things. Number 1, recruitment. Who is joining the team? Number 2, training. Are you developing the team? Number 3, losses. Who is leaving the team? The best way to describe how to grow and improve the team and its bench is what I call the revolving door principle. Here's the way it works. A team will always have gains and losses. People are constantly coming into an organization while others leave it. The key to its future success is gaining a more effective person with each loss. Let's say, for example, that you can rate every person's effectiveness on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 as the highest. As the revolving door turns, if your team is losing 4s but gaining 8s, then your future looks bright. If you're losing 8s and gaining 4s, then the future looks bleak. And if you're losing 4s and gaining other 4s, then you're wearing your team out with activity but making no progress. Any team that is avoiding stagnation by trying to improve will go through changes. And as the revolving door moves, different kinds of people will come in and go during various phases. For example, when an organization is new and just getting started, it recruits strongly. It has no one to lose and is glad to gain anyone. The good news is that as people come on board, a team is being formed. The bad news is that the people the team is gaining are not always good. When a team asks for commitment, some team members leave the team. But that's good. Commitment drives away the uncommitted, while it makes those who stay even stronger in the commitment they already possess. Once a team has a committed core and begins to grow, it again gains people. The people who join the team are often attracted to it because of the level of commitment they see in existing players. That builds the team's ability and drives it to achieve and leads to its success. However, once a team becomes successful, some members will want to leave to try to find greater success on their own. That's a critical time for a team. If you can give people intriguing challenges and share both responsibilities and rewards with them, you may be able to persuade them to stay. If you can't, you'll probably have to rely on your backup players, and then you'll find out what kind of a bench you've built. If you can sustain growth in the midst of success and repeat the process while continually building your bench, then you can create a legacy team. That's what organizations such as General Electric, Disney, and Home Depot have done. Their sustained growth and reputations for success continue to draw good people to them. The key to making the most of the law of the bench is to continually improve the team. As you bring on better players, first improve your starters, then build your bench. Do that long enough and you will build a great team, because great teams have great depth. That's the law of the bench. Teamwork thought for the law of the bench. Better players make you a better player. Law number 13, the law of identity. Shared values define the team. At least one day a year, I try to bring together everyone in my organization. Early in Enjoy's history, that was easy. Back in 1985, when we founded the company, Dick Peterson and I could get together on a moment's notice with his mother-in-law, Irma, our only employee, and 4 or 5 volunteers who helped us, 2 of them who were our own wives. Even 10 years later, we were still a fairly small outfit. The entire company could meet around one large conference table. But today, things are different. Now we have to rent a hall to accommodate all of our employees. But we still make the effort to get together. In fact, it's more important for us to do that now than it ever was before. Because of our size and the diversity of operations, the people on our team have a tendency to get disconnected from one another. And it becomes increasingly difficult for the leaders in the organization to maintain a personal connection with everyone. Maybe you've experienced the disconnectedness that often accompanies rapid growth in an organization. Granted, with slightly more than 200 employees, ours is not a large company, but it's big enough to experience growing pains. Where the team once was defined almost entirely through relationships, it now needs something more to keep it together. That's where the law of identity comes into play. Shared values define the team. Even if some members of a team don't share common experiences or have personal relationship with one another, they can possess a cohesiveness that defies the size of the team. What it takes is a common vision and shared values. If everyone embraces the same values, team members can still have a connection to one another and to the larger team. We've all seen teams that have a common goal yet lack common values. Everyone on the team has different ideas about what's important. The result is chaos. Eventually the team breaks down if everyone tries to do things his own way. That's why team members need to be on the same page. Just as personal values influence and guide an individual's behavior, organizational values influence and guide the team's behavior. Values can help a team to become more connected and more effective. Shared values are like, number 1, glue. When difficult times come, and they do for every team, values hold people together. If the players don't know what their values are and live them out, their chances of working as a unit and reaching their potential are very small. Number 2, shared values are like a foundation. All teams need stability to perform well and to grow. Values provide a stable foundation that makes those things possible. You need something to build on, and values make the strongest foundation. Number 3, shared values are like a ruler. Values also help set the standard for a team's performance. In the corporate world, the values are often expressed in a mission statement or set of guidelines for doing business. Shared values, number 4, are like a compass. I think we live in a time when people are searching for standards to live by. When individuals embrace strong values, they possess a moral compass that helps them make decisions. The same is true for people in an organization. When the team identifies and embraces a set of values, then in a month, a year, or a decade, no matter how much circumstances change or what challenges present themselves, people on the team still know it's moving in the right direction and make good decisions. Number 5, shared values are like a magnet. A team's values attract people with like values to the team. In the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, the law of magnetism states, who you are is who you attract. That law is as true for teams as it is for leaders. People attract other like-minded people. And finally, number 6, shared values are like an identity. Values define a team and give it a unique identity to team members, potential recruits, clients, and the public. What you believe identifies who you are. Your values should reflect the people on the team and their leader. What's important is that you go through the discovery process and embrace the team's values. Once you do, you will better understand your team, its mission, and its potential. Never forget that shared values define the team. That's the law of identity. Teamwork thought for the law of identity? If your values are the same as the team's, you become more valuable to the team. Law number 14, the law of communication. Interaction fuels action. When Gordon Bethune took over Continental Airlines in 1994, the company was a mess. It had suffered through 10 changes in leadership in 10 years. It had not made a profit in a decade. Customers were flocking away from the airline, and those who did use Continental were rarely happy because, in the words of Bethune, their planes came and went as they happened to, with no predictability. That's not what business travelers and vacationers are looking for in an airline. When a company is that bad, the employees can't help being affected. Morale at Continental was abysmal. Cooperation was non-existent. Communication was at an all-time low. Employees had been lied to so often and so thoroughly that they didn't believe anything they were told. According to Bethune, they had learned one survival strategy: duck. Bethune's goal was to save Continental, but he knew that to do it he would have to change the culture of the company. The key would be communication. If he could win the communication battle, he believed he could get the employees to work together again for the good of the team, the customers, and the stockholders. His first step was to open up the executive offices to the rest of the team. When he began working for Continental, the 20th floor suite occupied by top management in Houston was like a fortress. Its doors were locked, the area was surveyed by lots of security cameras, and nobody could enter the area without a proper ID. It wasn't exactly inviting. Bethune literally propped open the doors and hosted open houses for the employees to break down the intimidation factor between leaders and the rest of the team. The next thing he did was to work on breaking the old bureaucracy that had developed over the years. At Continental, rules and manuals had taken the place of communication and the use of judgment. The chief symptom of that mindset was the 9-inch thick book of rules for employees that had come to be known as the Thou Shalt Not book. In a significant gesture, CEO Bethune, along with Continental President Greg Brenneman, gathered employees in the parking lot, dropped the manual in a trash can, doused it with gasoline, and burned it. The message was clear. Everything at Continental was going to change. Continental didn't change overnight. In fact, as Bethune and Brenneman laid out their go-forward plan, employees were skeptical. But the leaders kept meeting with the people, committed themselves to being honest with them, and maintained their patience. If the news was good, they told the people. If the news was bad, they still told them. They put up bulletin boards in every employee area that showed two things. One, their ratings for the last year according to the Department of Transportation rating guidelines. And two, daily news updates from the company. They created a weekly voicemail message to everyone on the team. They also put lots of communication in writing, using a monthly employee newsletter called Continental Times and Continental Quarterly, which they mailed to every employee's home. They put Newswire-style LED displays by every coffee and soda machine. They even created 800-number hotlines for questions and information that could be accessed by any employee from anywhere in the world. A company that had been characterized by distrust and lack of cooperation became a place where communication was pervasive. Bethune's communication policy was and is simple. Unless it's dangerous or illegal for us to share it, we share it. It took time, but eventually the company began to turn. Employees started to trust their leaders. They began to work with and trust one another. And for the first time in more than a decade, the employees of Continental functioned as a team. Today, Continental's service is among the best in the industry, and the company is profitable. As of April 2001, Continental had posted 24 consecutive profitable quarters in an industry where many of its competitors are struggling to stay in the black. Only with good communication can a team succeed. It doesn't matter whether that team is a family, a company, a ministry, or a ball club. Effective teams have teammates who are constantly talking to one another. Communication increases commitment and connection. They, in turn, fuel action. If you want your team to perform at the highest level, the people on it need to be able to talk to and listen to one another. If you've ever been on a team where teammates never let one another know what's going on, then you know how frustrating poor communication can be. The team gets stuck because nobody knows what the real agenda is. Important tasks remain uncompleted because each of the two team members believes the other one is taking care of it, or people duplicate others' work. Departments within the organization fight because each believes it is being sabotaged by the other. In the book Empowered Teams, authors Richard Wellens, William Byam, and Jeannie Wilson state communication refers to the style and extent of interactions both among members and between members and those outside the team. It also refers to the way that members handle conflict, decision-making, and day-to-day interactions. The success of your team and the ability of your team members to work together are dependent on good communication. Here are some guidelines that will help your team to improve in this area. Every team has to learn how to develop good communication in 4 areas. Number 1, from the leader to the teammates. John W. Gardner observed, "If I had to name a single all-purpose instrument of leadership, it would be communication." Perhaps you are familiar with my books on leadership. Then you know that I believe everything rises and falls on leadership. What I haven't mentioned before is that leadership rises and falls on communication. You must be able to communicate to lead others effectively. If you lead your team, give yourself these standards to live by as you communicate to your people. Be consistent, be clear, and be courteous. Never forget that when you are the leader, your communication sets the tone for the interaction among your people. And never forget that good communication is never one way. It should not be top-down or dictatorial. The best leaders listen, invite, and then encourage participation. Number 2, from teammates to the leader. Good team leaders never want yes men. They want direct and honest communication from their people. I've always encouraged people on my team to speak openly and directly with me. When we hold meetings, they are often brainstorming sessions where the best idea wins. Often a team member's remarks or observations really help the team. Sometimes we disagree. That's okay because we've developed strong enough relationships that we can survive conflict. Getting everything out on the table always improves the team. I never want to hear a teammate say, "I could have told you that that wouldn't work." If you know it beforehand, that's the time to say it. Besides directness, the other quality team members need to display when communicating with their leaders is respect. Leading a team isn't easy. It takes hard work. It demands personal sacrifice. It requires making tough and sometimes unpopular decisions. We should respect the person who has agreed to take on that role. Number 3, among teammates. Author Charlie Brower remarked, "Few people are successful unless a lot of other people want them to be." In a team that desires to experience success, all team members must communicate for the common good. Teams succeed or fail based on the way that team members communicate with one another. Martin Luther King Jr. declared, "We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools." If the interaction is strong, then the action teams take can be strong. Interaction fuels action. That's the essence of the law of communication. Number 4, between the team and the public. For most teams, communication within the team isn't the only kind that's important. Most teams interact with outsiders in some way, whether the people are clients, customers, or concerned public. When approached by people from outside the group, team members must remember the 3 R's. They need to be receptive, responsive, and realistic. If they receive communication from others gracefully, always respond in a timely fashion, and are realistic about setting and receiving expectations, they will do just fine. Outsiders will perceive that their concerns are being well received. An old story that I heard when I lived in the Midwest was about a horse pull at a county fair. That's an event where various horses compete to see which one can pull a sled with the greatest weight. One year, the champion horse pulled 4,500 pounds. The runner-up pulled 4,400. Wondering what the two stout horses might be able to pull together, a group of men yoked them together. They pulled more than 12,000 pounds, an increase of more than 33% over their individual efforts. There's tremendous power in unity. One of the principles I always tell my team is that when we are brainstorming and planning, I want all the ideas and criticisms out on the table. We need an opportunity to hash things out. But once we leave the room, we must be united. Even if we face opposition or criticism, we remain a strong team. When it comes down to it, you spell cooperation W-E. Working together means winning together. But no team works together unless it's communicating. It takes interaction to fuel action. That's just the way it works. That's the law of communication. Teamwork thought for the law of communication. Communication increases connection. Law number 15, the law of the edge. The difference between two equally talented teams is leadership. Teams are always looking for an edge. I'm sure you've seen it. Businesses invest in the latest technology, hoping to improve their productivity. Companies fire their ad agencies and hire new ones to launch a campaign, desiring to make gains on major competitors. Corporations cycle through the latest management fads like channel surfers through television reruns. Everyone is seeking the magic formula that will lead to success. The more competitive the field, the more relentless the search. What is the key to success? Is it talent, hard work, technology, efficiency? To be successful, a team needs all of these things, but it still needs something more. It needs leadership. Personnel determines the potential of the team. Vision determines the direction of the team. Work ethic determines the preparation of the team, but leadership determines the success of the team. Everything rises and falls on leadership. If a team has great leadership, then it can gain everything else it needs to go to the highest level. Look at any team that has ever achieved great success, and you will find that it has strong leadership. What enabled General Electric to gain the respect of the corporate world? The leadership edge of Jack Welch. What sealed the victory of the United States in the Persian Gulf War? The leadership edge of Generals Norman Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell. What powered the Chicago Bulls to win 6 NBA championships? The leadership edge of Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan. That's why I say the difference between two equally talented teams is leadership. That's the law of the edge. To get a clearer picture of the difference that leadership can make, think of the same players on the same team with different leadership. The Los Angeles Lakers are a notable example. During the late 1990s, they struggled despite having a very talented group of players, including Kobe Bryant, who many hoped would be the next Michael Jordan, and Shaquille O'Neal, the best center in the game. Both players were acquired in 1996, yet they continued to have major problems and never clicked as a team. In 2000, the team brought in Phil Jackson, the man who led the Chicago Bulls to 6 championships, to coach the Lakers. He kept the same team intact with a few changes because he knew the talent was not the issue. Of his 3 key players, O'Neal, Bryant, and Glenn Rice, Jackson remarked, "I think we have 3 of maybe the most talented players since the time of Kareem and Worthy and Magic." However, Baylor, West, and Chamberlain on the 68-71 Lakers outshone even those people. They were 3 of the greatest scorers in the game, and yet they couldn't win a championship. So yeah, we got the talent, we got the show, we got everything else. But how do you make all the pieces complement each other? That's really what my specialty is as a coach, to try to bring that to bear. And this team is learning that. Leadership is all about understanding players, bringing them together, and getting them to work together as a team to reach their potential. And Jackson provided it. In only one season, the team came together. In 2000, the Lakers won the NBA championship that everyone had believed they had potential to win. They did it in the same city, working under the same conditions with the same players they'd had in previous years. The only thing that had changed was the leadership. That gave them the edge. The difference between two equally talented teams is leadership. That is the law of the edge. With good leadership, everything improves. Leaders are lifters. They push the thinking of their teammates beyond old boundaries of creativity. They elevate others' performance, making them better than they've ever been before. They improve their confidence in themselves and each other, and they raise the expectations of everyone on the team. While managers are often able to maintain a team at its current level, leaders are able to lift it to a higher level than it has ever reached before. The key to that is working with people and bringing out the best in them. Number one, leaders transfer ownership for work to those who execute the work. For a team to succeed, responsibility must go down deep into the organization, down to the roots. Getting that to happen requires a leader who will delegate responsibility and authority to the team. Good leaders seldom restrict their teams. They release them. Number two, leaders create an environment where each team member wants to be responsible. Different people require different kinds of motivation to be their best. Good leaders know how to read people and find the key that will make them take responsibility for their part on the team. They also remember that they are responsible to their people, not for them. Number three, leaders coach the development of personal capabilities. The team can reach its potential only if each individual on the team reaches his potential. Effective leaders help each player do that. For example, Phil Jackson is well known for giving his players books to read that will help them improve themselves, not just as basketball players, but as people. Number four, leaders learn quickly and encourage others to learn rapidly. Leaders lift themselves to a higher level first, then they lift the others around them. Modeling comes first, then leadership. If everyone is improving, then the team is improving. If you want to give a team a lift, then provide it with better leadership. Leadership is the key to the law of the edge. But I don't want you to get the idea that the responsibility for leadership always falls on one person. Although most teams have a designated leader who is ultimately responsible for the oversight of the team, the actual leadership of the team is usually shared. I find that when it comes to leadership, many people tend to see it in one of two ways. The first I call the myth of the head table. It's the notion that on a particular team, one person is always in charge in every situation. It's the idea that this particular individual permanently occupies the head table in the organization, and everyone else always takes a subordinate role to him. The idea that one person is always doing all the leading is false. The same person should not always lead the team in every situation. The challenge of the moment often determines the leader for that challenge, because every person on the team has strengths that come into play. The other misconception about leadership takes the opposite extreme. I call it the myth of the round table. It's the belief that everyone on the team is equal. All opinions count the same, and a team can function without leadership. That isn't true either. A team that tries to function like a democracy never gets anything done. Everyone is important, but everyone isn't equal. The person with greater experience, skill, and productivity in a given area is more valuable to the team in that area. GE CEO Jack Welch's opinion carries more weight than a person who packs boxes on the assembly line. That's the way it is. That doesn't mean that Jack has more value as a human being. In the eyes of God, everyone is loved equally. But when it comes to leading the team, somebody needs to step forward. In essence, leadership is like a running head start for the team. Leaders see farther than their teammates. They see things more quickly than their teammates. They know what's going to happen and can anticipate it. As a result, they get the team moving in the right direction ahead of time. And for that reason, the team is in a position to win. The greater the challenge, the greater the need for the many advantages that leadership provides. And the more leaders a team develops, the greater the edge from leadership. If you want to win and keep winning for a long time, train players on the team to become better leaders. Teamwork thought for the law of the edge. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Law number 16, the law of high morale. When you're winning, nothing hurts. It's an image most Americans will never forget. Gymnast Carrie Strug being carried in the arms of Coach Bella Caroli to the podium to receive her gold medal along with her 6 teammates in the 1996 Summer Olympic Games in Atlanta. It was a landmark moment. It was the first time the women's gymnastics team from the United States had won the gold medal. But that isn't why people will remember it. Although it was a stick-in-your-mind image, the tiny 87-pound Strug being cradled by a big bear of a man who is considered the greatest gymnastics coach in history, it will be remembered primarily because it is the perfect picture of the law of high morale. Even if you didn't see it on television as I did, you probably know the story. In a sport dominated by Russian and Romanian teams, the United States team was actually ahead during the Olympic Games. The Russians had opened strong, but after the first rotation of events, the Americans were in first place. As the athletes competed in each event, the U.S. team's lead continued to grow, not by a lot, but steadily. And as the teams went into the final event, the floor exercises for the Russians and the vault for the Americans, all the U.S. team had to do was to finish solidly, and the gold medal would be theirs. But they didn't perform solidly. And when it came down to the last U.S. gymnast, the gold medal was still on the line. The last athlete was Carrie Strug, who had received the highest scores in the vault during the U.S. Olympic trials. One good vault from her, and the gold medal would belong to the team. When Strug tried to land her first vault, however, her feet weren't positioned quite right. She slipped and fell. Worse yet, she injured herself, and she still needed to complete another vault for the team. The situation was desperate. After the fact, some commentators remarked that the U.S. could have won without Strug's second vault. But at that moment, Russian gymnast Rosalia Galieva was still to compete in the floor exercise. U.S. coach Bella Caroli was concerned that a high score by the Russian would cost the Americans their hard-fought victory. Strug knew what she had to do. She needed to land her vault, the final attempt of the final event of the women's team competition. "Give me one last vault," Caroli encouraged her. "Give me one last good vault." A gymnast has only 30 seconds to complete her second vault after the scores from the first ones have been tabulated. In those moments, Strug focused herself. What Strug didn't know was that 2 ligaments in her left ankle had torn during her first vault. But that didn't matter. She flew down the runway, hit the beat board, sprang off the vault with her hands, and went flying through the air. Miraculously, she landed solidly on both feet. Then she felt excruciating pain. Standing on one foot, she quickly saluted the judges, then crumpled to the floor. She landed her vault, she got her score, and the entire team received its gold medal. After that, the girl who had always been in the background, who had never been the star of her gym, became the star of the Olympic team. Everyone seemed to appreciate the sacrifice she made. Strug's own words were direct and simple. When you do well, you think it's worth it. When you sacrifice so much and you finally do well, it feels really good. In other words, when you're winning, nothing hurts. That is the law of high morale. The law of high morale may ring a bell with you because the phrasing of that law was inspired by the words of Joe Namath, the quarterback who helped the New York Jets win the Super Bowl in 1969. Like any champion, he understood that there is an exhilaration that comes from winning. That feeling can be so strong that it sustains you through the discipline, pain, and sacrifice required to perform at the highest level. That's what Carrie Strug felt. As she faced that final vault, she knew that her performance would help her team win, and that knowledge empowered her to come through for the team when it mattered the most. Really, high morale helps the team to perform at its best. High morale can be a crucial difference maker. If the team is winning, then morale is high. And if the morale is high, then the team is in a position to win. So which comes first, high morale or winning? I believe that high morale usually comes first. Why? Because high morale magnifies everything positive that is happening for a team. Number one, high morale is the great exaggerator. When an entire team is positive and all the players feel good about themselves, everything seems good. Preparation seems to proceed more smoothly. Every break seems to go your way. The small victories seem sweet, and the big ones make you feel almost invincible. The stars of the team deliver at crunch time, and even the bench players seem to be playing beyond their usual capabilities. Has the team changed from talentless to talented overnight? Is the team really as good as its press? Probably not. Some people call such a time a winning streak or a stretch of good luck, but it's really just high morale. The team is enjoying the great exaggerator at work. Number two, high morale is the great elevator. When a team possesses high morale, the performance of its people goes to a whole new level. The team focuses on its potential, not its problems. Team members become more committed, and everyone finds it easier to be unselfish. Team members are confident, and that confidence helps them to perform at a higher level. Number three, high morale is the great energizer. High morale gives a team energy. No mountain seems too high, no project seems too difficult, no race seems too long. Their enthusiasm builds along with their energy, and the team develops a momentum that is almost unstoppable. Number four, high morale is the great eliminator. Because of the momentum and energy that comes with it, high morale also becomes the great eliminator. While a team that is losing and experiencing poor morale can be hurt by even the most minor problem, a team with high morale will keep right on going, even when faced with a huge obstacle or otherwise disabling setback. Problems just seem to disappear, no matter how big they are. Number five, high morale is the great emancipator. Something else that high morale does for a team is to free it up. Winning creates breathing room. A good team with high morale will use that breathing room to take risks and try out new ideas, new moves, new concepts that it otherwise wouldn't. Doing these things yields creativity and innovation. In the end, high morale releases the team to reach its potential. If you're a leader, you may be saying, okay, I agree. When you're winning, nothing hurts. High morale is great for the team. How in the world do we get it? Let me tell you. You need to know where your team is and move it through the 4 stages of morale. Stage 1, poor morale. The leader must do everything. Nothing is more unpleasant than being on a team when nobody wants to be there. When that is the case, the team is usually negative, feels lethargic, or has no hope. That is often the atmosphere found in a team that is losing. If you are in that situation, you need to investigate the situation, initiate belief, create energy, and communicate hope. In stage 1, the only way to get the ball rolling is to start pushing it yourself. As the leader, you can't wait for anyone else to do it. Stage 2, low morale. The leader must do productive things. In the beginning, any movement is a noteworthy victory. But to create positive morale, you need to pick up some speed. You need to be productive. Get the team moving. Model behavior that has a high return. Develop relationships with people of potential. Set up small victories and talk teammates through them. Communicate vision. Once you've got the team really moving, Then you can begin to steer. Stage 3, moderate morale. The leader must do difficult things. Getting the team together and moving it forward are great accomplishments. But where you're going matters. To change from simply moving the team to moving the team in the right direction, you must do the difficult things that help the team to improve and develop high morale. You need to make changes that make the team better. Receive the buy-in of the team members. Communicate commitment. Develop and equip members for success. The two toughest stages in the life of the team are the first stage, when you're trying to create movement in a team that's going nowhere, and the third stage, when you must become a change agent. These are the times when leadership is most needed. Stage 3 is the make-or-break time for a leader. If you can succeed in Stage 3, then you will be able to create high morale on your team. Stage 4, high morale. The leader must do little things. In Stage 4, your job as a leader is to help the team maintain high morale and momentum. Keep the team focused and on course. Communicate successes. Remove morale mashers. Allow other leaders to lead. The process of building high morale takes strong leadership, and it takes time. You don't need to have the power of a CEO or the ability of an Olympic athlete to practice the law of high morale. You can apply the principle to your business, your volunteer service, or even your family right where you are. In fact, when the law of high morale is working at its best, the leader boosts the morale of the team, and the team boosts the morale of the leader. That's the way it should be. When you're winning, nothing hurts. Teamwork thought for the law of high morale. When you do good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you do good. Law number 17, the law of dividends. Investing in the team compounds over time. He's one of the greatest team builders in all of sports. Yet you've probably never heard of him. Here's a list of impressive accomplishments. 40 consecutive basketball seasons with at least 20 wins. 5 national championships. #1 ranking in his region in 20 of the last 33 years. Lifetime winning percentage of .870. His name is Morgan Wooten. And why have most people never heard of him? Because he is a high school basketball coach. Morgan Wooten never planned to coach a team. He was a decent athlete in high school, but nothing special. However, he was an excellent talker. When he was growing up, his ambition was to be an attorney. But when he was a 19-year-old college student, a friend tricked him into accepting a job coaching kids from an orphanage in baseball, a game he knew little about. The team had no uniforms and no equipment. And despite working hard, these boys lost all 16 of their games. During that first season, Wooten fell in love with those kids. When they asked him to come back and coach football, he couldn't refuse them. Besides, he had played football in high school and he knew something about it. The orphanage team went undefeated and won the Washington, D.C. Catholic Youth Organization Championship. But more important, Wooten began to realize that he wanted to invest his time in children, not in court cases. It wasn't long before Wooten was invited to become an assistant coach at a local powerhouse high school. Then, with a couple of years of experience under his belt, he became head coach at DeMatha High School. When he started at the school in 1956, Wooten was taking over a bunch of losing teams. He called together all of the students who wanted to play sports at DeMatha, and he told them, "Fellas, things are going to change. I know how bad DeMatha's teams have been during the last few years, but that's over with. We're going to win at DeMatha, and we're going to build a tradition of winning, starting right now. But let me tell you how we're going to do it. We're going to outwork every team we play. With a lot of hard work and discipline and dedication, people are going to hear about us and respect us because DeMatha will be a winner." That year, the football team won half its games, which was quite an accomplishment. In basketball and baseball, they were division champions. His teams have been winning ever since. DeMatha has long been considered a dynasty. On October 13, 2000, Wooten was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. At that time, his teams had amassed a record of 1,210 wins and 183 losses. Over the years, more than 250 of his players have won college scholarships. 12 players from his high school teams went on to play in the NBA. But winning games and honors isn't what excites Wooten most. It's investing in the kids. Wooten's attitude reaps rewards not only for the team, but also for the individuals on the team. For example, for a 26-year stretch, every single one of Wooten's seniors earned college scholarships, not just starters, but bench players too. Penn State assistant coach Chuck Swinson observed, "Even if you know a kid isn't a great player, if he's a DeMatha player, he'll help your program. With Morgan, you know you're getting a quality kid who will make good grades and work hard for you." Investing in the team compounds over time. Morgan Wooten invests in his players because it is the right thing to do, because he cares about them. That practice has made his players good, his team successful, and his career remarkable. He's the first basketball coach to have won 1,200 games at any level. Developing people pays off in every way. That is the power of the law of dividends. I believe that most people recognize that investing in a team brings benefits to everyone on the team. The question for most people isn't why, but how. Allow me to share with you 10 steps you can take to invest in your team. You can implement these practices whether you are a player or a coach, employee or employer, follower or leader. There is always someone on the team who can benefit from what you have to offer. And when everyone on the team is investing, then the benefits are like those of compound interest. They multiply. Here is how to get started. Number 1, make a decision to build a team. This starts the investment in the team. It's said that every journey begins with the first step. Deciding that people on the team are worth developing is the first step in building a better team. That requires commitment. Number 2, gather the best team possible. This elevates the potential of the team. As I previously mentioned, the better the people on the team, the greater the potential. There's only one kind of team that you may be a part of where you shouldn't go out and find the best players available, and that's family. You need to stick with those teammates through thick and thin. But every other kind of team can benefit from the recruitment of the very best people available. Number 3, pay the price to develop the team. This ensures the growth of the team. It will cost you to develop your team. You will have to dedicate time that could be used for personal productivity. You will have to spend money that could be used for personal benefit. And sometimes you will have to set aside your personal agenda. But the benefit to the individuals and the team is worth the price. Everything you give is an investment. Number 4, do things together as a team. This provides community for the team. The only way to develop community and cohesiveness among your teammates is to get them together, not just in a professional setting, but in personal ones as well. There are lots of ways to get yourself connected with your teammates and to connect them with one another. Many families who want to bond find that camping does the trick. Business colleagues can socialize outside of work in an appropriate way, and where and when are not as important as the fact that team members share common experiences. Number 5, empower team members with responsibility and authority. This raises up leaders for the team. The greatest growth for people often occurs as a result of the trial and error of personal experience. Any team that wants people to step up to a higher level of performance and to higher levels of leadership must give team members authority as well as responsibility. If you're a leader on your team, don't protect your position or hoard your power. Give it away. That's the only way to empower your team. Number 6, give credit for success to the team. This lifts the morale of the team. People are willing to work hard if they receive recognition for their efforts. Compliment your teammates. Talk up their accomplishments. And if you're the leader, take the blame but never the credit. Do that and your team will always fight for you. Number 7, watch to see that the investment in the team is paying off. This brings accountability to the team. If you put money into an investment, you expect a return. Maybe not right away, but certainly over time. How will you know whether you are gaining or losing ground on that investment? You have to pay attention to it and measure its progress. The same is true of an investment in people. You need to observe whether you are getting a return for the time, energy, and resources that you are putting into them. Some people develop quickly. Others are slower to respond, and that's okay. The main outcome you want is to see progress. Number 8, stop your investment in players who do not grow. This eliminates greater losses for the team. One of the most difficult experiences for any team member is leaving a teammate behind. Yet that is what you must do if someone on your team refuses to grow or change for the benefit of the teammates. Number 9, create new opportunities for the team. This allows the team to stretch. There is no greater investment that you can make in a team than giving it new opportunities. When a team has the possibility of taking new ground or facing new challenges, it has to stretch to meet them. That process not only gives the team a chance to grow, but it also benefits every individual. Everyone has the opportunity to grow toward his potential. And number 10, give the team the best possible chance to succeed. This guarantees the team a high return. One of the most important tasks you can undertake is to clear obstacles so that the team has the best possible chance to work toward success. If you are a team member, that may mean making a personal sacrifice or helping others to work together better. If you're a leader, that means creating an energized environment for the team and giving each person what he needs at any given time to ensure success. Investing in a team almost guarantees a high return for the effort because a team can do so much more than individuals. Or as Rex Murphy, one of my conference attendees, told me, where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a team, there's more than one way. If your current team experiences are not as positive as you would like, then it's time to increase your level of investment. Building a team for the future is just like developing a financial nest egg. It may start slowly, but what you put in brings a high return, similar to the way that compound interest works with finances. Try it, and you will find that the law of dividends really works. Investing in the team compounds over time. Teamwork thought for the law of dividends? Is the team's investment in you paying off? As we finish up, you may have noticed that there is no law of chemistry. So let me tell you why that concept isn't one of the 17 indisputable laws of teamwork. Chemistry isn't something that you can create with one skill or implementation of a single technique. Chemistry develops when you're able to implement all of the laws of teamwork. The more laws you put into practice, the greater the chemistry your team will develop. Each time a player finds his niche on the team, it helps to create positive chemistry. Each time a weak link is replaced by a better player from the bench, it creates better chemistry. When a catalyst steps up to the plate and makes something happen for the first time, or when a leader finds a way to help the team perform at a higher level, it creates good chemistry. When players finally count on one another, it makes the chemistry better. Every time another law comes to life for the team, the chemistry gets that much better, and the team gets that much stronger. I hope you have enjoyed learning about the laws of teamwork. More important, I hope they will help you develop the team of your dreams. Embrace them, and you will empower your team. That is my promise to you.